Somber. I think there would be this big exhale for about a day. And then this turning inward and trying to reflect on what this means to us and our species and ourselves. Somber meaning serious. Somber meaning serious. Somber meaning serious. Somber meaning serious.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. It's been a little while since we've covered Lue Elizondo, the completely and totally fake Pentagon UFO program director. And I feel very confident in saying that because there are various data points that prove that Lue Elizondo's entire original story, remember it was reported in the New York Times, his entire original story is fake. The first story of Lue Elizondo was in the New York Times, and shame on the New York Times because it's been years now and they still haven't corrected the record. The entire original article, by the way, was written by Leslie Keene, who thinks that ghosts tapped her on the shoulder, touched her. She touched a ghost's hand, and also that ghosts slime her, among her other crazy. She's just the girl who wrote the article is a complete and total wackadoo. And she would be considered what is considered a UFO activist. She's not a real journalist. A real journalist will give you all the facts. Leslie Keene admitted on her own HBO special that she carefully crafted the information in that article, to make UFOs more serious and to advance the topic. She forgot to tell you that the program she was talking about, which Lue Elizondo never actually ran, wasted $22 million studying things like dino beavers and werewolves and poltergeists, in addition also to UFOs. So the entire narrative of this Lue Elizondo grifter started off with one big lie. And lately I've been realizing quite a lot of UFO and alien grifters, their entire story, it should fall apart at the starting line. Any decent journalist would have looked into his claims, would have checked with the Pentagon and asked for an official confirmation. Did this man, Lue Elizondo, run an official $22 million funded Pentagon UFO program? No? Okay, so he's a liar and nobody should listen to anything else he has to say. But this guy's been able to scam for himself television show deals, book deals. Now he's got a new book deal. And I think it's pretty funny, like in his last book, Lue Elizondo promised to tell us all the truth about UFOs for money. But now he's going to have a new book where he's going to promise to tell us all the truth about what the government knows about UFOs, again, for money. And there has been, when we get into situations like this, by the way, check out our free documentary section in the description of this video. Not quite as bad as Lue Elizondo, but just as bad, or maybe worse, is the story of Charles Hall and the tall white aliens. If you've ever heard anybody talk about tall white aliens in all of your years, it all began with one big lie. Charles Hall started his entire story with "when I was in the Air Force." Turns out he wasn't in the Air Force. And, I get it. People are sending me stupid messages saying, well, the government erased his record, Stephen. Well, I live in the fucking real world where that's not what happens. The government doesn't have to tell you. If somebody was, especially, let's say somebody was involved in secret government projects while they were in the military, the government doesn't have to tell you what secret government classified projects they worked on. But they do have to verify that they were in the armed service that they claimed. In Charles Hall case, there is nothing. There's no records. And in fact, we've done extensive, even more checking because Charles Hall claimed to win all these prestigious Air Force awards. And it turns out there's a list of people who won those awards. Like, for example, if you say, I won the Congressional Medal of Honor, or I won a Purple Heart in Vietnam, there's a list of everybody who's ever been awarded that. And your name should be on that if you're running around saying it. Charles Hall can't verify any of his prestigious awards. Isn't that interesting? So, but before we begin, I want to remind you that as a public benefit, sometimes we compile all of our research. Usually when I have done an exhaustive amount and I'm like, I'm not going to waste any more time on this person, we kind of compile our findings into these free documentaries. If you go to our main channel and scroll all the way to the bottom, you will find a bunch of free documentaries. And despite what people have said, oh, well, you make tons of money making those. No, we don't. Look at the view counts. I think the most viewed one got like 3,000 or 4,000 views. So that translates into something like $30. The latest one is called Charles Hall, Alien Whistleblower, His Tall White Alien Lies Exposed. So we have some, let me check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have 7 free documentaries. And I just want to mention that those documentaries are not produced for profit, or at least they're not making very much profit. They are ad supported, but they're free to watch. So we do those as a public benefit. So the people who support our usual show, you're also supporting that. And we love and appreciate you for that. We'll take a moment to recognize some kind and generous people before we get into tonight's presentation. One for the goal. Let's go. Big support. Big support. Let's go. Pew, pew, pew. Well, we thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. RP708, who has been throwing a couple bucks in our hat. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, and praise the cash. And we'll get some bumpers going as well as we proceed in our presentation tonight. David Wilcox, not Wilcock, has been a member for 8 months and says time flies. Well, thank you for the 8 months of support and praise the cash, right? All right. We will begin with what I think is the greatest, one of the greatest synopsises. How do you say Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post is the only mainstream reporter or journalist that has actually gotten the story of Lue Elizondo right. And I think he should be applauded for that, because almost every other journalist and podcaster and show host gets the story wrong. And I'm going to just share my screen. I've also added this debunk synopsis of Lue Elizondo's fake claims. I've added it to the description of the video here. So if you're listening in audio podcast land, or you're watching the video and you would like to follow along, there is the debunked UFO claims. I love this one. Okay, so number one, for 7 years, Congress has been investing taxpayer resources into the claims of UFO activist Lue Elizondo. But many of Elizondo's claims have been debunked as false, or his actions have been continuously dubious. Number two, Elizondo rose to fame after claiming he had been a director of a secret Pentagon UFO program named ATIP. But none of that was true. The Pentagon never had a UFO program named ATIP, and Elizondo was never its director. And he offers a full debunk. So, if you want to get even deeper into that, most of that story was false. The Pentagon didn't actually have an official program called ATIP, and Elizondo was not its director. And meanwhile, the media loved this UFO expert who says he worked for an obscure Pentagon program. Did he? And they determined, as best I remember that article, they determined no, he did not. So, the entire story of Lue Elizondo begins with one big, huge lie. And, I am constantly amused by the number of retarded people that will still argue with you. Right. And of course, every show that has the disclosure title in it. And there's been some recent drama because once again, the Fister jerk off show one of his co-hosts was doxing and threatening people that are critical of Lue Elizondo. So there's this whole cult-like atmosphere that is around this guy. And if you are critical of him, or if you say he never ran that program he claimed he did, you get attacked. And in a most recent example, I think he's a fake cop until I'm shown proof of it. Fake former cop UFO Mike that was on this Disclosure Jerk-Off show with Thomas Pfister, you know. And by the way, the people that are supporting Lue Elizondo are some real quality people. That show host left his wife and child, abandoned his wife and child so that he could be gay. And, you know, this is the quality of people. They're like mentally deranged, like just sycophants, cult ass lickers of this guy Lue Elizondo. And I'm entitled to my opinion. I believe that he does direct them to attack his critics, because I've seen him apparently reward the people that attack his critics. By the way, just for in the interest of full disclosure, I was one of those critics that got attacked. I got doxxed. I got threatened. Somebody came in a live chat and threatened my wife by name. You know, big geniuses looked me up on Facebook, right? And now that same show host, the same show that doxed me and a bunch of other people a while ago through Rob Heatherly, who was once a co-host, now he's got another co-host that's running around doxing and threatening people. And this latest one was pretty bad. Like, this guy Mike Disclosure was sending mentally ill people like people's addresses and layouts of their houses even, and their relatives, where their relatives live. It's pretty bad. It got so bad that Pfister, loser that he is, had to throw that guy under the bus and pretend he didn't know about any of that, which is the same thing he did when Rob Heatherly got caught doxing everybody. That was also a show co-host of his. So number 3, Elizondo presented a fake CGI photo during a presentation about his fake UFO job at the Pentagon. This is all so stupid. Elizondo showed images of UFOs swarming the U.S. Capitol building and claimed, "What you see here are real photographs." No, they're not. And anybody that's into the UFO subject knows those are recreations. They're not real photos. To the best of my knowledge and recollection, there was no real photos of the event, though I'm not saying that event didn't happen. There was a bunch of witnesses. Turned out to be weird atmospheric phenomenon that caused some strange things to appear to be in the sky, but it wasn't anything alien.
In the early 1950s, the United States had another very significant event over our nation's capital. Once again, these objects were identified both with the naked eye and then again on radar.
He can't show us the radar tapes, though.
Many people had cameras and were able to take photographs.
Big problem with that one.
And what you see here are real photographs along with the headline story that came out.
CGI fake UFOs pulled from the 2005 movie UFOs, The Secret Evidence. Those are CGI. Lue Elizondo. I used to call him Lue Elizondo. So he's saying fake, yeah. Image from a 1954 comic book, Weird Science Fantasy, number 26.
Many people had cameras and were able to take photographs. And what you see here are real photographs.
Yeah, these are real photographs. 4 days later, Elizondo admitted the images were fake and issued an apology. Well, good for him, but the damage is already done. Number 4, Elizondo's History Channel TV show claimed a Navy video shows a spooky UFO hauling ass over the ocean at around 700 miles an hour. This object, this was later debunked by NASA and also Mick West and others, who demonstrated the object is only moving around 40 miles an hour, and it's probably just a balloon. So again, what kind of a UFO expert can't tell the difference between a fucking balloon going 40 miles an hour and an alien spaceship doing 700 miles an hour? Apparently, Lue Elizondo's that guy.
This video has come to be known as Go Fast and shows an object speeding just above the water.
That thing is hauling
That's
ass.
exactly my point.
It's a little less than 2/3 the speed of sound.
How is the craft able to fly so fast?
How is it able to fly so fast? 40 miles an hour. There's the NASA debunk.
Apply basic trigonometry to figure out how far it moved. And in this case, this object moved about 390 meters in 22 seconds. And that corresponds to a velocity of just 40 miles per hour.
40 miles an hour. Oh, Lue Elizondo, you moron.
That's exactly my point.
40 miles per
How can a UFO expert not be able to do basic math to calculate distance and speed of an object? Or did they know it was only a balloon flying consistent with the wind speed in the area at the time, which was 40 miles an hour? But he needed to drama it up, so just pretend it's hauling ass, right?
It's a little less than 2/3 the speed of sound.
40 miles per hour.
But how is the craft able to fly so fast?
40 miles per hour.
Oh, poor Lue Elizondo, you moron. Either he's intentionally scamming the public with fake stories, or he's a moron. Those are the only two choices. Either Lue Elizondo is a complete and total retard, or he's doing this on purpose. Number 5, Elizondo went on a CNN and showed off newly declassified documents from the CIA about a Tic Tac UFO in the 1950s. However, these new documents were actually released in 1978 and were just clippings from a Swedish newspaper about a perfume company's balloon. This is a great one. Every story this guy tells, it turns out to be completely and totally not what he represents, because he's a grifter and a scammer.
You actually did share new declassified reports with our team, and they detail intelligence on UFOs resembling something like a Tic Tac going all the way back to 1947. You had a CIA report from 1953 says Swedish airline pilots encountered a silver or white
balloon chandelier. It's all aliens to Lue.
I think the fact that you have pilots separated by decades, if not generations, reporting the same type of observations, describing the same, what is essence, the same object, a 40-foot long, whether it's a white flying butane tank or a white flying Tic Tac.
By the way, I'm putting my fair use banner up. This is all fair use. We're using these videos to educate the public. We're discussing them. Yes, the new declassified report was released in '78. It was in a daily newspaper, a tabloid daily newspaper. Yes. 4 pages of news articles. Not written by the CIA. And the flying lozenge was reported to be an advertising balloon. Oh, no. The mysterious flying lozenge was more likely an advertising balloon for a perfume company. The perfume company put out a statement, with all certainty, that object is one of our balloons. Oh.
Well, so I mean, what do you think of this pattern, the similar characteristics over time?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing your homework. I think a lot of media has been lazy about this topic.
Oh, isn't it great that he says that? Thank you for doing your homework to a girl that didn't do her homework, right? Nobody does their homework in this because it ruins the story. Number 6, Elizondo went on a radio show and claimed a new declassified NSA document showed evidence of space aliens. In reality, it was just an unclassified what-if speech from 1986. And of course, Jimmy Church is involved in this one. Jimmy Church is the biggest scumbag grifter host there is. If you're a grifter, you're going to get on Jimmy Church, right? Jimmy Church is the loser bum that brought us such great grifters as Emery Smith and David Wilcock and Corey Good, right?
Let me share with you a headline just today with your readers that came out. And normally I wouldn't do this, but this is important. Listen to this headline.
I don't think anybody that listens to Jimmy Church can actually read. He said with your readers.
Okay. Life beyond. NSA warns aliens could contact humans through high...
And he's quoting the Sun newspaper, which is a trash tabloid.
...frequency signals, as experts warn we're not alone in the universe. The National Security Agency has warned that aliens could contact humans through high-frequency signals, as experts say we're not alone in the universe. A declassified document from the NSA titled Communication with Extraterrestrial Intelligence explains the various methods.
How did he get fooled by this? How did Lue Elizondo? Is he a moron? Look, maybe he's a little retarded, and we all have to cut him some slack. Because from everything I've seen, the chandelier video and all the times he gets everything completely and totally wrong, I'm beginning to think that Lue Elizondo might actually be a little bit retarded.
Could use to communicate. Now, this is a headline that came out from the NSA, National Security Agency.
And look at Jimmy Churches lapping it up.
It was a classified document, but I am certain, because we're now having this conversation.
It was unclassified. It was a classified document.
Publicly, it has been declassified. It is now in the public sphere. Now think about that. That's just one example of the NSA.
The original paper was unclassified, and it was basically just a speculative paper.
Why would if nobody in the government was looking at UFOs, then why would the NSA write a report titled, classified report titled Communication with Extraterrestrials Intelligence?
No, it was unclassified, you moron, Lue Elizondo.
What's the date on that? Yeah, what's the date on that report?
My gosh. Well, I'd have to go through this whole thing here.
He doesn't even know what date the thing he's reading and promoting.
Let me take a look here. You have to give me a moment. Let's see here, 100,000.
Yeah, he really did his homework on this paper, boy. Calling it classified over and over again.
Called the.
And he's quoting a tabloid newspaper that sells stories like, Hillary Clinton had a alien hybrid baby, right? This is the quality of the research that this guy does.
I will have to find it for you, unless you want me to spend the next 5 minutes going through it. But I'm sure one of your readers probably, or your listeners right now, is.
Oh, he corrected himself. That's right, Lue Elizondo. Don't call Jimmy Church's audience readers, because nobody that listens to Jimmy Church knows how to read.
Going to throw it up on the chat group.
I'm confident of that one.
I'm certain that they are aware of it.
It was from 1966. It wasn't a newly declassified NSA document. It was never a classified document, and it was published in 1966.
But that's a big deal, because think about it. What it means is that it's not just DOD or the CIA or the.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was released in 1996.
The Air Force or the DNI. Right. It is the NSA that is putting out that report that was classified.
It was classified, but no, it wasn't. Number 7, Elizondo's UFO associate, Sean Cahill, premiered a brand new UFO video on a podcast and told some spooky paranormal stories. Eagle-eyed Redditors quickly realized the video was actually shot in Lue Elizondo's backyard in Wyoming, and the blurry UFO was probably just a plane coming in to land at an airport a few miles from Elizondo's house. And just a note on this one, Sean Cahill, Lue Elizondo's ass-licking butt buddy, I'm pretty sure he's the bottom bitch in that scenario, but I think maybe they just take turns. He said there was no airports anywhere near the location that this video was taken. I found 4 of them within a few miles from the location that was geolocated as basically Lue Elizondo's backyard. So they lied and said, could be a plane. There couldn't be a plane. There's no air. There's an airport like 1.6 miles, as best I recall, from Lue Elizondo's house for small aircraft.
It's a lifetime of things like that. Something happens, I see it. It should have a bigger impact, and then it quickly fades away.
Redditors quickly discovered this new UFO was shot in Elizondo's backyard.
You seem like you've had quite a few of these amazing experiences.
This information was never shared with the audience, and UFO fans were upset once the truth was revealed. By the way, there is an airport 7 miles away. Okay, so 7 miles, still. They said there was no airports anywhere near the location. The audio of the video has been removed, probably to remove the prop or engine noise. Stephen Greenstreet put it back in. He put the sound back in for them. Good job. All right, so that's another fraud on the public, gullible public. Number 8, Elizondo released his highly anticipated UFO biography after landing a lucrative book deal in 2021, but people quickly noticed a slew of factual errors in his book. How could a supposed expert get so many simple things wrong? And we're not going to go through this whole video here. I've included the link here. We're a little pressed for time. We have to go through this Jillian Michaels interview. Number 9, Elizondo claims in his book that tiny spooky ghost UFOs lived inside his house, but he admits he never once took any photos or video of them. UFO fans were confused why the world's #1 most famous UFO investigator never investigated the UFOs inside his own house. This whole story is ridiculous.
And investigate it though? Like, did they try to set up anything?
No, they had no issue with it at all. They said it's very, very normal for
They
that
said
to
it was
happen.
normal.
Yeah,
So
a
someone
lot
on
of
the
people.
ATIP team,
Oh yeah,
counter intel guy, is now seeing.
not counter intel. Oh yeah, I was counter intel.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Is now seeing orbs in his house while you're working on this project about these UAPs.
Right.
And the
Yeah. And nobody thinks to take a picture.
team that's in charge of UAPs doesn't want to go investigate that.
No, they're saying that they're having the same issue too. They're like, well, what do you want to do about it? Well, I don't know.
I don't know. Set up a
Maybe take some camera. Yeah.
camera, Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
get Bill Murray in there, do something. Right?
Set up a
Yeah,
camera.
well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, once every few months, you'd have to have a lot of cameras. I don't have a setup like this. I can't afford.
He can't afford cameras. Yeah, he can't afford, the UFO investigator can't afford cameras. So that's number 9, fake story. How many fake stories does Lue Elizondo have to be involved in? Completely fake stories before we say this guy's a fraud. He's a complete total lunatic fraud. And a lot of people have suggested that he's a government disinformation agent, but honestly, I do not buy that. I think that Lue Elizondo is nothing more than a profiteer. RP 708 with another one. Is Jimmy Church just Timu George Nori? Yes, I believe you are correct, but thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. And we're a little light on the super chats tonight. I will read, just so everybody's aware, I read every single super chat. We thank every single person who becomes a YouTube channel member during our live broadcast. We'll be checking in with the Kick chat and calling out any support over there. If you become a subscriber on Kick, on our Kick channel, Arlene will probably share the link to our Kick channel. If you follow us during a live broadcast, we give you a big shout out and thank you on the Kick side. If you become a subscriber or give some subs, we give you a big shout out and thank you. Super stickers, super thanks. We thank everybody for their support. So let's continue with this. Number 10, Elizondo went on Joe Rogan and held up a government document and claimed it was a report about how UFOs came in and interfered with their nuclear weapons. But I got a copy of the exact document and it doesn't mention UFOs at all. So here's another completely and totally fake story that he's told. Especially to tell it on Joe Rogan. How many millions of subscribers does Joe Rogan have? 5 million subscribers or more?
The UFOs came in and they stopped. They interfered with our nuclear weapons, and they brought the entire Echo flight offline. Which, by the way, I have the government report on that if you want it. Here's the actual report from the Department of Defense. This is the actual intelligence report that was released.
And it does not mention UFOs. Wow, that's a little strange. Doesn't mention UFOs at all. In fact, no conclusions have been drawn. No apparent reason for the loss of 10 missiles can be readily identified. No UFOs. Oh, and
The UFOs came in and they stopped. They interfered with our nuclear weapons, and they brought the entire Echo flight offline.
Completely and totally fake story. Are we recognizing a pattern? And here's my favorite. On his national for-profit book tour, Elizondo showed a paying audience a real photo of a UFO mothership, UFO hovering over the U.S. Embassy in Romania. Online skeptics quickly debunked the photo as a reflection of a ceiling light in a window of a building that was not at the U.S. Embassy. Elizondo issued a statement admitting the UFO photo was fake, but essentially spun it as, wow, this is great, we solved the mystery. And here he is lying and claiming that he talked to the pilots that took the picture of this mothership UFO. Well, how could you take How could he talk to pilots when first of all, it wasn't taken at the U.S. Embassy? Second of all, there were no pilots that took pictures of this because it wasn't a real object in the sky. It was a Pepper's Ghost illusion, a reflection of a chandelier taken through an apartment window.
Real photo. We were having pilots.
Real photo.
Civilian pilots in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East report what unimaginably seemed impossible. They described it as literally the mothership.
Who described it? What pilots? No pilots saw this in the sky. So here he is, in my opinion, he's committing consumer fraud here. Pay for my live event, and I'm going to show you the truth about UFOs. And then he shows a completely fake UFO photo and tells a big story about how he talked to the pilots who took this photo. No, you didn't.
Looking like the mothership from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now, if any of you ever seen that movie, remember the very end, this huge mini city floating in the sky and turns upside down. Looks. Guess what we caught in Romania in 2022? By the way, the U.S. Embassy.
It wasn't taken at the U.S. Embassy. This photo was quickly debunked as a ceiling chandelier reflected in a window. You can also see the head and hair of someone standing in front of the light. Oh, not a UFO photo. And the photo was geolocated to an apartment building, not the U.S. Embassy, as Elizondo claimed. I'm really starting to think that Elizondo may be retarded. Or he's doing this on purpose, and he knows what he's selling people is fake. Those are the only two possibilities.
By the way, the U.S. Embassy.
Neither paints him in a very good light. Oh, that one's my favorite, the chandelier. Number 12, while under oath, Elizondo contradicted himself to Congress about his involvement in OSAP, a Pentagon program he falsely claims was a UFO program.
The record, again and again.
Here we go. He can't keep his story straight. You know who else can't keep their story straight? Liars.
Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I don't think Lue Elizondo knows what's the truth. He lives in a delusional fantasy world where he ran a Pentagon UFO program that he never actually ran because it didn't exist. He later admitted in his own Inspector General complaint that it wasn't a program, it was an activity. In other words, it was his hobby while he worked in a completely unrelated area to UFOs while working at the Pentagon at a boring office desk job.
Let the record show that the witnesses all answered in the affirmative.
In the 2009 timeframe, when I came back to the Pentagon after a tour with the Director of National Intelligence, I quickly became part of a program that was originally called OSAP.
It's been brought to my attention that despite my
Yeah, and here's what he said before.
Constant assertion in the media about my non-involvement in OSAP, some are under the false impression that I was part of it. For the record, again and again, I was not part of OSAP.
But then he in Congress, he says he was part of the program.
I quickly became part of a program that was originally called OSAP.
Dr. James Lukatsky, he was just pointing out you weren't really a big part of OSAP.
No, I was not part of OSAP. I made it very clear in my book.
I was not a part of OSAP. Then why is he testifying to Congress that he was a part of OSAP?
Quickly became part of.
And by the way, for those unaware, OSAP is the $22 million program that wasted $22 million in taxpayer funds to study mostly Skinwalker Ranch and things like werewolves and poltergeists and shape-shifting bulletproof werewolves and all kinds of stuff. Just crazy nonsense.
OSAP.
I was not part of OSAP.
I quickly became part of OSAP.
No, I was not part of OSAP.
To affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So
I was not a part of OSAP.
the record show that the witness.
Again and again, I was not a part of OSAP. Oh,
This is all answered in the affirmative.
until I was a part of OSAP. Number 13, Elizondo presented Congress with another fake UFO photo. He claimed the photo showed a 1,000-foot silver disc object that cast a large shadow. Online skeptics debunked it within minutes as simply normal irrigation circles. multiple media outlets ran stories about Elizondo's embarrassing false claim. Elizondo initially doubled down, refusing to apologize, but eventually posted an apology where he admitted the error. So again, we're up to 13 completely and totally fake stories that this guy has told. How many fake stories does the fake Pentagon UFO program director have to tell before we say this guy is a fraud and a phony?
This is taken from a civilian pilot. It is a lenticular object, and when you look at the shadow being cast, it is significantly large. And the object potentially is anywhere between 600 to 1,000 feet in diameter. It's a lenticular object, and it is silver.
Oh, too bad. The spooky UFO was a normal irrigation circle taken from an airplane somewhere. Oh, what a moron. What a moron, Lue Elizondo, you moron. You son are a moron. All right. Do we have any more? Yeah, 14. This is just a partial list of Elizondo's falsehoods over the past 7+ years. But congressional leaders like Rep. Luna, Rep. Burleson, and Rep. Timberchet shockingly still consider Elizondo an expert and continue to spend, I would say waste, taxpayer resources on his claims. And the mainstream news media, whose job it is to separate fact from fiction, has spent the last 7 years printing Elizondo's claims with little to no critique or proper inquiry. To any journalists out there who are curious but don't have time to do the homework, here's my New York Post reporting on Elizondo and the UFO scam. So there we have it. 13 examples of Lue Elizondo getting caught with his pants down. You know, it just never ceases to amaze me that we live in a very activity-based, attention-based economy where people know in order to get those clicks and views, you just have to keep pumping out stories. Who cares if the stories are completely and totally fake, right? Who cares? Lue is giving bad seeds to people for shitty crops. Why was our elected officials wasting money with those hearings? Exactly. All right, so we're going to, and by the way, I just want to put on the record that I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a law enforcement officer, and I'm not like a district attorney, I'm not a prosecutor. But when I think about somebody pretending that they ran a Pentagon UFO program and then telling people I ran a Pentagon UFO program and selling things to the public, I consider that a form of consumer fraud. And I consider it
stealing money.
Yeah. And if somebody pretends that they ran a government UFO program and then sells tickets to a live event where people can hear their experience that they had while they were running a government UFO program, I consider that consumer fraud, also known as
stealing money.
Okay. And if somebody's involved in an organization like To the Stars Academy, where they promise people they're going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that will change the world if you would only invest in our company, I would call that
stealing money.
Yes, because no investor ever got anything that they promised. And if while a part of To the Stars Academy, you promise people that you may have pieces of alien spaceships, and then they all turned out to be ordinary earthly objects, and you collected investment capital from gullible people to show them the truth of these alien spaceship parts, I would consider that consumer fraud, also known as
stealing money.
Okay, and if you pretend that you ran a Pentagon UFO program and then you're in a documentary making those same claims and people have to buy that documentary, I would consider that a form of consumer fraud, also known as
stealing money.
Yes, and if you get a TV show deal where you lie and say that you ran a Pentagon UFO program and it turns out you never actually had any assigned responsibilities around UFOs while you worked at the Pentagon, I would consider that a form of consumer fraud. He defrauded the History Channel or whoever was paying him to pretend that he ran a UFO program that he never ran. I would consider that consumer fraud, also known as
stealing money.
Yes, and if you get a book deal and you pretend, I would consider. Now he's got a second book deal where I'm sure he's going to pretend that he ran a Pentagon UFO program. I would consider that also consumer fraud, also known as
stealing money.
If you take part in UFO conferences where you're a paid speaker and you tell people that you ran a Pentagon UFO program and it turns out that you didn't, but you accepted a speaking fee from the organizers of that UFO event and you lied to them, I would consider that a form of consumer fraud, also known as
stealing money.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is where we're at, and this is where we find themselves, right? And we've got fake Lue Elizondo is in the live chat threatening me with the law firm again, right? Anna Louisa says stealing money. Yes. And he's bald. Yeah, he's gone bald. Well, you know, lying to people every day of your life is stressful. This guy's been lying to everybody for 7 years. So we've already got our fair use banner up. Let me just change here to our other brand if it's going to let me. There we go. That's all, folks. Wait, wrong background. There we go. All right, so I'm going to put our fair use banner back up. This is a transformative work and an educational. We're educating the public and we're critiquing the video that we are sharing. And I just want to say to Jillian Michaels, you're lazy. Your staff is lazy. She has a whole staff. She has people that work for her to produce this podcast. She has 500,000 subscribers. Doesn't she owe at least a little bit of due diligence or doing a little bit of homework to her audience or followers before she platforms a fake Pentagon UFO program director who's been caught? And we've just shown you 13 examples of completely and totally fake stories. And then, of course, there are the number of just evidence-free stories. Remember, he said in his book that he has superpowers and he somehow shook the bed of a terrorist, right? And appeared as an angel with his superpowers. I mean, come on, Jillian Michaels. Is this really what you want to show your audience? And I challenge Jillian Michaels. We're only up to 43 minutes here. Watch the first portion of our broadcast tonight. And why don't you invite Stephen Greenstreet or me or, you know, somebody who's skeptical of Lue Elizondo's claims onto your podcast to educate you and educate your audience about this fake fraud grifting scumbag who's been, by the way, running through the UFO community, grabbing every dollar he could for what? You know, I don't know, like 8-9 years now. He hasn't had a real job. His whole job is pushing UFO scam stuff, right? He hasn't proven any of his claims since 2017 were true, right? Or 2016, whatever. And we have Elaine Walls with one for the goal. By the way, I keep forgetting to do this, so thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. And also, just want to mention, let's get through this here. All right, one moment here. Thank you, Elaine Walls, for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. And I apologize to the previous super chatters. Didn't have the bumpers ready, but we have them now. So thank you, Elaine Walls.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
Yes, thank you, Elaine Walls. And we've got another one. One moment here. From Grass Toucher 4714 says, keep up the good work. Well, we thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
Thank you to those people who super chatted before I had the bumpers up. This next bumper is for you. Thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show, and of course, helping us to praise the cash by exposing the truth about these grifting scumbags.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
All right, we're going to get into the video. But I really challenge Jillian Michaels. Listen, if you're going to platform a complete and total lying, grifting scammer, and you're not going to push back on any of his false claims, then get a guest that could educate your audience, educate you. You know, I mean, no offense, but Jillian Michaels looks like really stupid for even having this guy on her show. And I will consistently say that anybody that interviews Lue Elizondo and doesn't bring up all of his fakery, fraudery, and bullshittery over the years, we've just shown you 13 examples. There's plenty of material there. You will, pardon me, you will never hear anybody that interviews Lue Elizondo ask about any of the fakery or fraud or push back on any of his false claims over the years. And there's a reason for that, because it's all theater. Lue Elizondo won't do a skeptical podcast. He won't do any interview where he thinks that the interviewer may be critical of him at all, because he's an intellectual weakling and a coward whose claims fall apart under scrutiny. He's a pussy. And even though I've already just called him a pussy and an intellectual weakling and coward, I have an open door policy. Lue Elizondo is free to come here and explain to us why, like, for example, everything that we showed tonight in the first portion of this broadcast is wrong. Why is it wrong that prove to us that you ran a Pentagon UFO program? You can't, and you won't, because you're a grifter, right? Fake Lue Elizondo says you block me. No, I don't. The truth, I don't block you, is that you're in the live chat. He has no intellectual vigor. Yeah, I mean, and again, we have an open door policy. We don't just talk shit on people. I get accused of that. Oh, all Steven does is talk shit. We just showed you a tremendous, overwhelming amount of evidence that this guy is a fake and a fraud and has been defrauding the public with fake stories for years and years now. That's a fact. That is a fact. Lue Elizondo has defrauded the public with fake UFO stories for years and years, including his own origin story. Trolly Troll is here with one for the goal. All right. Trolly Troll says, fake Lue says he's going to take the shirt off your back. He really wants to ask me about my butthole shirt. Yes, I agree, right? Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated.
Raise the cash.
Troll, one of our oldest and biggest supporters here, continuing supporter, always throwing a couple bucks in our hat, keeping us honest here. So let's get into this this stupid interview. And Jillian Michaels, do better. Why don't you listen, Jillian Michaels? I give you my full permission. You can clip the first 42 minutes of my broadcast and you can put it on your channel so you can educate your audience and prove that you're not in on the scam. Because if you're in on the scam, you're not going to tell your audience the truth about this guest that you just had. But if you actually have some morals and ethics and a conscience, you will educate your audience and say, hey, maybe we made a mistake and we were just too quick to platform this fake Pentagon UFO program director. Do the right thing, Jillian. And by the way, I don't have anything against her. I have something against people that do zero homework and they rush, they got to rush to cash in. It's disingenuous. It's dishonest to do what you just did, which is to just take all of Lue Elizondo's claims at face value without doing. You didn't do 5 minutes of fact checking on his claims, even his claims of running a Pentagon UFO program. You did no research. You did no fact checking whatsoever. No vetting of the guest. And Jillian is just going to sit here like a dummy and just basically glaze him. That's what she's doing during this interview.
No sonic boom, no wings, no visible propulsion.
And she's repeating the fake UFO talking points that people like Lue Elizondo constantly use. No wings, no visible means of propulsion. Show us the proof of that. And let's not forget my favorite. These things defy the laws of physics. Show me a physicist that has examined your data and agrees with your statement. Otherwise, it's just hyperbolic nonsense.
Just instantaneous acceleration going from 0 to hypersonic speeds in the blink of an eye.
Can we see the sensor data that confirms that happened? We never see any sensor data that confirms that something went from 0 to hypersonic in the blink of an eye. We never see any sensor data that confirms that statement. But UFO retards have been repeating that ad nauseum for as long as I've been into this subject.
Defying the laws of inertia and physics.
There we go. Defying the laws of inertia and physics. Jillian Michaels, maybe Jillian Michaels is retarded too. Then we have to give her a break. If she's got like a mental deficiency, that's the only excuse. The only reason that she's repeating these talking points is because she was handed them.
As we understand them. Maybe you've watched the Senate hearings.
The defying the laws of physics one is my favorite.
Fighter pilots.
And by the way, this is fair use, transformative work. We're educating the public and critiquing
the
video we're sharing.
But the question remains, what are these things? And who knows the truth? My guest today is the man who kicked the door open. Lue Elizondo is
he kicked the scam open, you mean?
Former U.S. Army counterintelligence special agent and the former director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
You mean that UFO program that never existed? Come on, Jillian Michaels, the least little bit of fact checking. You just said that he was the director of a UFO program that the government on the record says there's no UFO program called that. And Mr. Elizondo had no assigned responsibilities around UFOs while he worked for us at the Pentagon. None. He had no assigned responsibilities. So how is he the director of a program that doesn't exist, Miss Michaels? Do you have somebody that works for you maybe that could do some basic fact checking or research before you look stupid and silly, repeating the lies of a proven scammer grifter? Come on, Jillian Michaels, you've got to be able to do better than this.
Or otherwise known as ATIP.
So in other words, she does the same thing that many people do. She takes whatever the guest writes for her and just repeats it like a retarded parrot without even thinking about it. Like, I don't know, man. This stuff is just this stuff just kills me, right? But listen, there is some good news. I'll tell you about it in a moment. Tales of the Sonic Voyage with one for the goal. Hyperspeed, 40 miles an hour. That is correct. The hyperspeed, apparently it defies, a balloon will defy the laws of physics if it gets up to 40 miles an hour. But thank you, Tales of the Sonic Voyage, for being a UFO channel member. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
All right, let's continue.
It's the secretive Pentagon unit tasked with studying these anomalies, and he's the man that's largely responsible for declassifying the videos that changed the world's perspective.
He wasn't responsible for declassifying anything. In fact, he has been accused of stealing the videos out of the Pentagon. They were never meant for public release. Did you know that, Miss Michaels? Those 3 videos, which by the way have been largely debunked. We just talked about one tonight, the go fast. It wasn't going fast. It was going 40 miles an hour. Do you do any fact checking? Do you do any research before you just repeat lies of scamming grifter fake Pentagon UFO program directors that never worked around UFOs in the Pentagon? Come on, Jillian Michaels. You got to be able to do better than this.
On UAPs forever. And the timing could not be more critical. With a massive news sighting just exposed in the Daily Mail regarding activity over Area 51.
Oh boy, Dorito-shaped aircraft.
The conversation is now shifting from if they're here and why to how imminent is first contact.
No, she can't do better. She doesn't have the gray matter for it. You know what she strikes me as? She strikes me as that. You remember that popular girl in school? She was super popular because she was hot, but she was dumb as shit. But nobody would say that because they were all trying to bang her. That's Jillian Michaels in a nutshell.
I'm sure this is going to sound crazy, but I think I know almost everything about you. Not in like a creepy weirdo way, I promise.
Oh, I know everything about you. Did you know about the 13 examples of him selling completely and totally fake stories that we just showed you? Right? Way to glaze him too. Like, oh, I'm a big fan.
But I've been following you since 2019, pre-COVID, and all of a sudden, the Pentagon whistleblower.
Yeah, decent body, but the face
UAPs,
needs some help.
as the layman knows, UFOs. And I thought, like, This is an earthquake.
She's a downslope girl.
Crazy.
You know what a downslope girl?
And
a downslope girl is a girl that you could tell like she used to be very attractive, but age catches up and then the downslope begins. That's kind of where we're at.
We had COVID and it all sort of went underground. Didn't hear anything about it. And then I started hearing your talks everywhere. I read your book. I watched the documentary, The Age of Disclosure.
Yeah, the humans can't survive
Long
at
story
speeds
short,
of
we're
40
almost
miles an
7
hour.
years later
Yeah.
from when I first discovered you.
Both creepy.
I've still not seen an alien. Nobody has publicly acknowledged an alien. We don't know what the friggin' drones over New Jersey, and it's like
We do know.
Nowhere.
The drones over New Jersey were misidentified regular aircraft. I investigated, I think, 12 different sightings that people sent me that I got video for, and every one of them was a misidentified regular aircraft, including a police helicopter, commercial airliners, and more.
Lou, maybe we should start at the beginning, but that's where I'm in my mind at. So
She dumb?
who
Yeah.
are you? And how did you get
Before we get to that, too, I just wanted to mention there's something wrong. Somebody suggested to me yesterday or today that Lue Elizondo may have lost his CIA bump on YouTube, because there was a time when if Lue Elizondo did an interview on one of these big channels with 500,000 or 1 million subscribers, then they would get, 500,000 views or 1 million views. This interview is 5 or 6 days old now. It got 27,000 views. There are fart videos on YouTube with far more views than that. So I don't know what's going on. Either Jillian Michaels' channel is botted out the wazoo, or people are finally starting to wake up and not care what a fake Pentagon UFO program director has to say about UFOs. I hope it's the latter. And again, I don't believe this stuff about, he's CIA, he's a disinformation agent. I think that he's just an opportunistic grifter. That's what I think. Tim Curley with one for the goal. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Tim Curley is also a YouTube channel member, so thanks for that. And he says, Jillian Michaels isn't too bright, but my money is on her to beat David Wilcock in an arm wrestling match. Praise to Cash. Yeah, I think my 10-year-old son could beat David Wilcock. But thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support.
Praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, friends, let's continue. Thank you, Tim Curley, long-time show supporter.
Sure.
We love to see this.
Let's see. I'm a Gemini. I like long walks, pina coladas. No, I'm. You know what? I'm an average person like everybody else. I served my country. I had the privilege of serving my country after college in the United States Army, and then I became a senior. I became a special agent in counterintelligence, and worked with various organizations in the intelligence community pretty much my entire career. And I will say, a lot of people know me publicly, my public persona, as being that UFO guy. The reality is, until I was brought into the program at the Pentagon, I couldn't even spell UFO.
He wasn't brought into any program at the Pentagon. He wasn't a part of any UFO program at the Pentagon. That's a factually inaccurate statement. In other words, a lie. And we want to take a moment to thank a kind and generous benefactor. Grass Toucher 4714 just became a YouTube channel member. And I always say this, and I will remind everyone once again, if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we give you a big shout out and thank you. So big shout out to Grass Toucher, and welcome to being a YouTube channel member. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Let's get some more people. Smash that join button. Give us a couple of bucks and keep us doing this great work, exposing the lies behind these liars. Thank you, Grass Toucher.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, thank you. And Amber Gedden, who's also a longtime show supporter and a YouTube channel member, is here with one for the goal. At least she doesn't look like she's going to fly away like Jenny McCarthy with her fake eyelashes. Starstruck over a grifter. Well, it happens, but thank you, Amber Gedden, for your kindness, generosity, and continued support of the show. Amber Gedden's always here throwing a couple bucks in our hat and supporting the show. Thank you for that, Amber Gedden.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, let's continue. I don't know how much of this I could take. We're only 3 minutes in, and I already want to quit.
I was my priority at the time was counterterrorism. I spent a lot of time in foreign countries, serving my nation with other wonderful Americans.
Yeah, he claimed that he was the torture czar at Guantanamo Bay. That's not something that somebody should be proud of, being a part of a torture program. But Lue Elizondo proudly claims that he was known as the Darth Vader of the torture program, or some bullshit. I don't.
The topic, when I years ago, people say, "Oh, didn't you ever watch the X-Files and things like that?" And the answer is no. I never had that luxury. Time wasn't something that I really had very much of. And it wasn't really until 2009 that I was introduced to the reality that our government, your government, is using your taxpayer dollars to investigate UAP, or what was formerly known as UFOs. And you can imagine it was a bit of a shock.
And why did they rename UFOs UAPs post 2016? They did it to remove the stigma, and let's rebrand this thing so people take it more seriously.
A little bit of cognitive dissonance going on, because as a trained intelligence professional, we've always been taught to, explore things very scientifically, very analytically. And this was something that I learned through the Pentagon and the intelligence community, that the U.S. government has had a really long-term.
His handle at Guantanamo Bay was Nutcracker.
And once more, that these things have the ability to enter our controlled U.S. airspace, sensitive airspace, completely unchallenged. And we have no idea where they're from or what all their capabilities are. But we do see a couple things that are a little bit concerning. One is there seems to be a strong interest in our nuclear equities, our nuclear technology.
Yeah, and an awful lot of those stories of UFOs shutting down nuclear missiles have been debunked completely and totally as fake stories. But it doesn't stop morons like Lue Elizondo from continually repeating the lie that these things just do whatever they want over our nuclear airspaces, including shutting down our missiles. It's a false talking point.
Weapon systems and other technologies. And also that they have the ability to outperform pretty much anything that we have in our inventory.
This is, again, another talking point of Lue Elizondo. Show us the sensor tapes. Show us the radar tapes. Show us the sensor data proving that any UFO that you've investigated verifiably outperforms anything in our arsenal. He can't, and he won't. It's just a talking point. That's what it is.
So I guess that'd probably be a good place to start, and then take it from there.
Okay, to be honest, as a kid, I was actually terrified of these things. There was a book that came out by a guy named Whitley Strieber, and it had this gray creature.
Yeah, it's called Communion, whatever.
These giant black eyes, and he tells this horror story about being kidnapped and taken into a spaceship, and not to be gross, but getting an anal probe. And I remember being like a friggin' 12-year-old thinking, this sounds horrifying.
Apparently, Jillian did not want to get anally probed by an alien.
And really becoming strangely interested in the topic, because I just wanted something that would tell me this wasn't possible, this wasn't real. And for years, I would listen to physicists who would essentially say, like, listen, the universe is massive. And there's a gazillion, trillion, bajillion galaxies. And they have a gazillion, trillion, bajillion stars. And those stars, X amount of those gazillion, bajillion have planets. And X amount of those can hold life. So yeah, there's probably a freaking ton of life out there in the universe, but they'll never get to us. So don't worry. There's no way that they could survive.
I think she's painting with a broad
They'd have to
brush
go faster
here.
than the speed of light. It would take thousands of years. They could never survive it. This, that, the other. The physics won't work. And I lived very comfortably under that assumption until you. So how, if these things are here, I watched the documentary and I listened to different physicists posit a guess, but it was a bit confusing. How in the world do we think these things could get here?
In other words, she doesn't know how they get there, how they get here. Nobody really knows how they get here. So anybody who answers this question, it's just pure speculation.
From such a extreme.
They're going to start talking about faster than light travel, wormholes,
distance.
Sure, and that's a great question. You're referring to earlier about the Drake equation, and that is the statistical likelihood whether or not intelligent life exists in our cosmos. And there's actually a very interesting equation that kind of goes into that. And in fact, the Pentagon actually paid for a study to look at the Drake equation and to reconsider the potential statistics if whether or not it's either more likely or less likely.
I don't know that
The
that's
reality
true.
is we do. We live in an income.
I've never seen a government document related to the Drake equation, but I could be wrong.
Comprehensively large universe. And in fact, right now, a lot of astrophysicists have surmised that there are over 200 sextillion stars in the observable universe. Now, what is a sextillion? I don't know, but it's been
estimated. And this is an old argument. The universe is so vast, there has to be aliens. Well, prove they're coming here. You can't and you won't.
Estimated that there are, to put this in more common parlance, it's been estimated that there are more stars in the visible universe than there are grains of sand in all the beaches of.
Somebody's been watching Neil deGrasse Tyson
That's just
videos,
the observable
right?
universe limited by the horizon of light reaching our planet, and a lot of scientists now speculate the universe could be at least 10 times actually larger than that, right? So 40 billion light years from end to end, and that's just the visible universe. So it is a comprehensively large space. But I've also like to remind people, if you've ever taken, I don't know, maybe high school chemistry, Avogadro's number, right? 1 times or 6.82.
He's got this is something Lue's got to throw in some science because he doesn't have any actual evidence. So let's just speculate, but we'll throw in some science.
Times 10 to the negative 23rd or something like that. The reality is, if you were to compare the size of a quark to the size of a human, that's roughly plus or minus the same order of magnitude, the if you will, as comparing a human being to the size of the known universe, right? It's we have an equal amount of space in scale inside every single human being. And we as human beings really can.
What is he talking about? A human being is the same size as a quark or the universe? What?
We can only interact with 1 or 2 orders of magnitude up or down. Otherwise, the universe is simply too big or too small. We'll never be able to actually interact with it directly. And yet that is where most of reality actually exists. So if you were to consider, for example, you asked a question about the vastness of space. You know, the old models of physics dictate.
I love learning science from a fake Pentagon UFO program director that's not a scientist, actually, no, he does. He has a science degree. I think it's in, I can't remember. Does anybody remember what his actual degree is in?
That there is this speed limit in the universe called the speed of light. Right. And how fast is that? It's roughly 186,000 miles per second, or roughly 7.5 times around our planet in 1 second. So it's very, very fast. And yet, because the universe is so
before I forget,
large,
let me take a moment to remind you that it's a great idea. It is a great idea to smash the subscribe button, because when a kind and generous friend here, like Elaine Walls, gifts some of these free memberships, you could win a free Truth Seekers channel membership here. In order to win that free membership, you have to be in the live chat and be a subscriber. So if you're in the live chat and you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button, because just now, because of the kindness, generosity, and support of Elaine Walls, who's also a channel member themselves, thank you for that, we have gotten 5 people to get a free membership. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 free memberships given out. And 5 people will win them, but they will be 5 people who are subscribers and maybe not yet channel members. So thank you for that, Elaine Walls, for your kindness, generosity, and support, and making it rain up in here. Thank you, Elaine Walls. Patty says griftology. All right, let's continue.
It still takes 40 billion years for a photon of light to go from one end to the other, right? But we're now realizing with the understanding of the theory of relativity introduced by Einstein, and of course, in the 1930s, the introduction of quantum physics.
We're 10 minutes in, and all we're getting is science babble from the Pentagon fake program director.
That there may be some loopholes in the laws of physics, and not necessarily in the speed of light, but in the notion of space itself. Now, this is going to get kind of weird really quickly, but scientists now realize,
listening to a fake program director
other experiments
is always
involving
weird.
Quantum entanglement, that space, the way we experience
He
space
does. He looks like
three-dimensionally,
Satanic's
and being kind
grandpa.
of this
Yeah.
empty vacuum of nothingness, in reality is full of stuff. And it's also a bit more like Swiss cheese. There's holes in it. And if you want proof that these holes
Yep,
exist,
this is
one only has
literally
to look
high
at a
school
black
science
hole.
level
There's a lot of
information.
studies being
Yes.
done right now. A lot of money is being put into studying black holes where matter goes in but never comes out.
Right.
And it may be that the gravity itself is so severe in these localized regions that we call black holes that space and time actually folds in on itself.
Oh, boy,
And
space
that
and
there are
time.
ways where you can traverse vast distances within
What did I
our
say?
cosmos,
Wormholes.
without really going very far at all. These concepts are called wormholes, and believe it or not, once again,
Wormholes.
your taxpayer dollars paid for.
There's no
studies
actual
back,
scientific
in
proof
the
yet of
2011
wormholes.
time frame.
They're
At
theoretical.
the Pentagon, at the
Nobody's
CIA,
found a real
and some
wormhole.
renowned academic institutions that actually was very seriously considering the viability of wormholes and the ability to engineer, if you will, space and time.
Yes, and he's talking about Eric Davis's papers, which, if you ever seen them, are a laugh riot. Like, Eric Davis got paid by the government to write a paper on wormholes, and he wrote a paper, and the illustrations are like Einstein waving to Barney the dinosaur through a wormhole. And Eric Davis's research was called Crackpot Science by the United States Air Force. There was a big article about basically the Air Force wasting all this money, and that was Eric Davis's research that he's quoting right here. A total wackadoo. Great job, Lou.
Okay. Now, I'm under the impression that to tear a fabric in space-time, open up and stabilize a wormhole. I don't know if anybody remembers Contact, that Jodie Foster movie. It's like,
Yeah, and just so anybody's aware, whenever you hear somebody talking about, oh, you can artificially create a wormhole, well, some people have done the math, and it would take more energy than is in 100 suns to do that, or something ridiculous, just a ridiculous amount of energy to tear a hole in the fabric of space-time. So whenever you hear somebody talking about that, is it theoretically possible to do that? Yes, but the amount of energy is just completely and totally insurmountable. It doesn't work. Not in a real practical sense.
for the average person, it seems like they opened up a wormhole and you watch her travel through. I know this is rudimentary and embarrassing, but nevertheless, I was under the impression that to do such a thing, you would need so much energy.
Yeah, there you go.
That you couldn't comprehend harnessing that much power.
And now Lue Elizondo is probably going to talk about 0-point energy or free energy to counteract logic. But good for Jillian. She realized I didn't think she was going to catch that. I thought she was just going to talk about wormholes. It's an insurmountable amount of energy required to do something like that, even though it's theoretically possible according to some theoretical physicists.
Where would a civilization get that kind of energy? It's like an antimatter conversation. Like, it's far beyond the energy of a
Jack
star.
Regan is here.
I would anticipate.
Miss catching this
How
live.
do
We're
you
glad
even
you're here.
get the technology to open up a hole in space-time and hold it stable to travel through?
Yeah, great question. Well, it turns out you don't really have to create a hole to warp space-time. In fact, there's two ways to warp space-time that conventional physics.
I'm starting to zone out. It feels like a bad high school science
that is
lesson.
in part thanks to Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, or energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And so there's two fundamental ways to warp space-time. One is with a lot of mass. Take this coffee cup, for example. With enough mass, you can warp into space-time. And if you want proof of that, one only has to look now on modern technology into GPS satellites. There are atomic cesium clocks on board these GPS satellites.
Oh, this is a bad science lesson, Lou.
Something on your smartphone to go shopping. The reality is,
I
those
feel like
atomic
smacking them
season
with a
clocks
stick.
are exactly the
Talk
same.
about the
They're running precisely
aliens.
the same rate
Shut up
as
with the
atomic
science
season
lessons,
clocks here at the ground
asshole.
station. We noticed something the Air Force did very early on during the days of GPS, that there is this phenomenon called atomic drift. And because the mass of the Earth is stronger on the surface than the force of gravity, if you will, the effect of gravity, than it is in a
Now he's
mid-Earth
explaining
or higher
atomic clocks
orbit,
to us. Great.
that the clocks on these GPS satellites actually run at a different rate. Now, how is that possible? If they're running at exactly the same way because of atomic decay, how is it that the further away you go from Earth, there's a larger delta, there's a larger difference in the way these clocks are running? And that is because of the fact that Earth is a massive object, and it is actually exercising
15
a
minutes in,
perturbance
we're
on
getting high
space.
school science lessons right now. We want to take a moment to thank a kind and generous benefactor, and that is Xenoscrape with 5 pounds. We love you, friends from over the pond. Louise is still connected to the Force and assesses telepathic the NPCs who are incapable of critical thought. Love from Liverpool. Funny guy, you. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Or should I say, well, thank you very much for your kindness, your generosity, and your support, right? And maybe I'll come visit you in Liverpool there. We'll have some fish and chips and a Guinness, right? Yeah. All right, Xenoscape, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
Hey, and we've got Fug. I told you guys, you got to smash that subscribe button, because already tonight, 5 people were gifted memberships already earlier in the broadcast. And that you really got to hit that subscribe button. Elaine Walls gifted 5 True Seekers memberships, so 5 people got a free one. Now we have Fug has gifted 5 True Seekers memberships. And that means that 5 people who were in the live chat and a subscriber here have been gifted or given a free True Seekers membership. And now Fug has kindly and generously donated 5 more True Seekers memberships, but those will only go to people who are in the live chat and subscribers. So we've already had 10 people, friends, win a free True Seekers membership tonight. And maybe some kind and generous friends will give more memberships, and you could win another. I think more people will be winning these memberships before the broadcast is over. But make sure you smash the subscribe button so that you could win one. And thank you, Fug, for expanding our memberships. And thank you, Elaine Walls, as well, for your kindness, generosity, and support, and expanding our True Seekers members here on our channel. All right, friends, let's continue with the science lessons from a fake Pentagon UFO program director.
It's time, and the heavier you go, like a star, you just mentioned a star, our sun, for example, warps space.
I probably should have previewed this
the
shit.
fact that we orbit around the
past
sun
this.
in the way we do is actually part of that relationship.
Yes,
Now,
he's
the
saying
other way to
nothing.
warp
That is
space-time
right.
is with
Talks
a
so
lot
much,
of
yet
energy.
says nothing.
And so if you want to really compare the relationship between mass and energy, this is not an exact comparison, but you could kind of consider
Found a free membership in your
mass
backyard?
mass as
What?
being like a chunk of ice, and energy as being
Quantum
steam.
is such a bunch of
They're
mumbo
both
jumbo.
fundamentally
Yeah.
water, but they're in 2 different energetic states. So it turns out that with mass, like the Earth or the Sun or even a black hole,
You're right,
it can
Rex
warp
Holes.
space-time.
I'm going to check it
and
with the
the
Kit
same
chat.
thing with a lot of energy. But to your point, you're right. It turns out to be a lot of
The
energy.
woman interviewing
The
him looks
question
like
is,
she needs to
is
poop.
there once again a loophole in that? Is there a way to cheat?
I'm bringing out a
And
stick.
that
That's
is,
right.
if you have specific
Let's
types of
smack this
material
grifter into saying something that
with
matters.
a lot of energy, is there a way to create a localized portion, if you will, a bubble around a localized area where space-time is fundamentally different?
Okay, the space-time bubble. Anime Chris is here, longtime show supporter and YouTube channel member, throwing one in for the goal. We're going to hit that goal tonight, friends. Anime Chris says, I'm warping to Italy tomorrow with my satellites to get some real pasta. Then I'll use the wormhole in the toilet to get home as I left. Well, that's just as believable as a story as this Lue Elizondo character is telling right now. But thank you, Anime Chris, for your kindness, generosity, and support.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
continued support. Anime Chris is a big supporter here, and we thank him for his kindness, generosity, and support. And we've got Indigo Horizon with a kind and generous one for the goal, $5. As you know, in Monty Python, where they scream, "Get on with it." This is a perfect example of that. We're going to have to find that sound effect, Indigo Horizon. And thank you for two things. Thank you for being a member. I don't know if I hit that. Thank you for being a member, and thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
We are praising it along, friends, and we will continue to do that. I haven't checked in with the goal yet. I'll do that right now. And I'm going to check in with the Kick Live chat. I'm pulling a Dark Side Phil. I've decided I'm just going to ignore the Kick chat if they don't pay me. That's what Dark Side Phil does. That's what I'm going to do. Right? All right. We're at 11 of 30 for the goal. So we need 19 more kind and generous friends to throw $5 or more in a super chat or super sticker. And we thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. I will check in with the Kick chat. You know, it's a new month. It'd be nice to see some money in there because they just paid me for the month of January. By the way, I do want to thank the Kick. I do want to thank the Kick subscribers and Kick gift. Everybody throwing money on Kick, I appreciate it because yesterday or the day before, whatever, I got paid, and it's like getting an extra paycheck. So we definitely thank you. We have Capybara supporter sent a rage quit of 500 kicks, which is $5. Thank you for that, Capybara supporter. It says, I just noticed how much this loser looks like Tim Waltz. Well, thank you for that, and thanks for putting a smile on my face. I'll check in with the creator dashboard. We'll pop it out. Maybe we'll share it tonight. Capybara supporter. One second. I have to pop it out to be able to read this thing right. Why do they make it like that? Capybara supporter also sent 100 and a penny, $1. But we thank you for that as well. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. Capybara supporter, the only one over there on Kick supporting. So I'm only going to talk to the people with money. I'm only going to talk to the people paying, right? But thank you, Capybara supporter, for your kindness.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Let's continue.
When you experience space-time inside the bubble is not the same that everybody else experiences space-time outside the bubble. Very much like we talk about the satellites, the global positioning satellites, that you can experience space-time at a localized area differently.
I'll be careful when I'm taking a shit.
This in many different scientific models. So it's not really science fiction, it's just science fact. And really the question is, how much energy do we need? Do you remember perhaps maybe, oh, it's been a while now, I'm kind of old, so I tell people this is gray, not blonde, right? But well, you look great with it.
Hair color,
I just look old.
hair color, man. But I digress.
Yeah, what a combination. Both of them can't.
But if you remember, there was an announcement.
I don't think both of them together equal the average intelligence of anybody.
They were at the level now where they were going to potentially start manufacturing the notion of micro black holes and in the laboratory. And a lot of people were very concerned. They thought that they were going to
they're all watching Star Wars, Stargate,
the Earth, and what
Star Trek. I watched all those.
That's not really what they were referring to.
Proper
what they were referring
sci-fi
to is that
nerd.
the energy levels now at the CERN are sufficient enough where theoretically.
By the way, did anybody has anybody checked out? There's Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner started a new podcast. I got to listen to a little bit of one of their episodes today. If you're a Star Trek: The Next Generation fan, you're going to love this shit. They're really giving the inside scoop on Star Trek: The Next Generation and
start creating
check them out,
our own black holes in the laboratory, these micro or nano
yes, and that's theoretical as well.
Black holes. Now they're not very big and they don't last very long, but it is now theoretically possible to create these right here on Earth with our own technology. And if that's the case, then it's no longer really a scientific challenge to say we can bend space time and create these wormholes, because if we
listen, a wormhole here he's showing his ignorance. A wormhole and a black hole are two different things. They're not the same thing, and he's equating them. Well, if we can make black holes in a laboratory, we can make wormholes. Not the same thing, moron.
we can do that in a laboratory at a very small scale, then it's really just a technology issue at this point. It's not a physics issue. It's now a technology issue. How do we scale up this little tiny black hole into something a little bit bigger that, you know, can be more sufficiently controlled and engineered?
Okay. So many questions. I want to focus on this one.
Why don't
Another
you ask him why he
barrier
lied to the New
entry.
York Times about running a Pentagon program, Jillian Michaels? Why don't you ask him why he lied to TTSA investors while taking their investment funds, right? Why don't you ask him why he lied to people who paid to see him tell them the truth about UFOs at a live event, and instead he lied to them with fake UFO photos? You've got a lot of questions.
With regard to belief for me. So I'm just trying to knock these things out here. So you've got a species that has the technology, the energy, all of the above to manipulate the fabric of space-time. This is what the physicists always say. Well, what the heck do they want with us? Why do they care? Well, they could just squash us like a bug. Doesn't make any sense. I've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson say that for 20 years. And yet, you know, you're talking about a freaking craft that's going, that's defying, nevertheless, it is not human.
Oh,
right?
It's not human.
So
Yeah,
what
be
then?
human.
Why? What do they? You don't want us to blow up our own little planet? Why do you care? Why would anybody care if we nuked ourselves? There's a gazillion 17th ever, however many species, butchering this. There's a 17th or whatever you said number of species in the world. Why do they care about us? They can access any planet they want. They can fold space-time. Why are they here? Like, why? What would be the logic? What can it?
You know, I'm always fascinated when I see, this is just a side note, but when I see like a huge channel with 500,000 subscribers and their set is a green screen. Like that's, am I wrong? It looks like that's just, she's sitting and there's a green screen behind her and they put different graphics behind her. Like, I don't know, maybe I just expect better or something from somebody that has that level of income, you know? Or maybe it's just that I have here's what I'll say. At least she's actually able to work the green screen correctly. Like there are people with the green screen that's their face is always disappearing, or parts of their face are disappearing, or it's not set right. I have a pet peeve about people that do that.
Anybody even posit a guess as to why we'd be visited under that pretense?
Sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about that actually in the U.S. government, believe it or not. And one, first of all, I think let's back up just for a moment because, you know, everybody assumes that they're from outer space. And I've always tried to encourage people to think things maybe a little bit differently because outer space is certainly an option, but they could be from inner space or frankly, the space in between. There's lots of different possibilities. For example, these things could have been here for a very long time and been from under the ocean, and we're now at a point now technologically we're able to interact with them, but they might not be from really way out there. They may be as natural to Earth as we are, quite frankly. So these are things we have to consider and leave all these options on the table. But with that said, let's kind of go back to your question here. Let's just presume or assume.
Let me stop rambling and actually answer the question that you asked. Yeah,
for just
that'd
one
be
moment.
great.
They are from out there, wherever, you know, there is. You know, it's the same reason why we go to Africa and we go to the Serengeti and we fly in a helicopter and we're tracking the wildebeest, and you might have somebody there shoot a dart and tranquilize one. Imagine from the perspective of that wildebeest, right? It's just sitting there with its buddies.
This is an old argument. It's the anthropology argument. Like, we're interested in lesser creatures, so why wouldn't they be? And maybe they're just studying us because we're so primitive, or, you know. I want to thank Fug for a kind and generous $50 super chat bomb. Thank you for your kindness, Fug. Your generosity and your support of the show is much, much appreciated. We'll give you a big praise to cash. Thank you for that big bomb.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Okay, thank you very much. Kind and generous people tonight. I almost didn't cover this because I think people are getting, based on his view counts, like I said, she published this. She's got 500,000 subscribers, and she published this 5 or 6 days ago. It's got 27,000 views. Like, what's going on? Like, did the CIA forget to bump him? Like, that's what people are saying. I don't know. He's a grifter. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. All right, let's continue with the science lessons here. We're 20 minutes in. It's all been a science lesson of theoretical physics so far. But Elizondo's not smart enough. Look at him, too. He ain't looking too good lately, right? Is it just me? Look at him. He looks like beat up and beaten down, like maybe lying to people every day for 8 years is taking its toll.
And just kind of drinking water, and all of a sudden this thing comes from the air making all sorts of whirring noise, and all of a sudden now you get sleepy, you lay down, and the things are now all over you, and they're touching you, and they're drawing your blood. Maybe they're testing for migrational patterns and health of the flock, but all you know is a wildebeest. All of a sudden you wake up, you're kind of groggy, scared like hell, and you kind of wander over to the water and hold him like, Jim, you're not going to believe this, man. The thing came out down. Now all of a sudden these things are touching me, and now my butt hurts. What the hell, right? So
yeah, got to mention the anal probing.
It could be something as simple as that. It could also be something where I'm sorry, I don't mean to make.
I said it first. I said I pulled the anal probe card first. Please.
Right.
You're freaking
Looks like he got the cancer.
But it could also be something even perhaps more profound. We are at the point now as a civilization where we really understand the connection between energy and mass
government plan
and warping of
could be.
space-time.
A lot of people think that.
Imagine you
looks
were
like an
a
alcoholic.
cosmic neighbor of Earth, right?
Yeah, he looks kind of
you
bloated.
watch these tiny little monkeys kind of evolve.
He's got anal beads in right now,
pruning each other to now creating these rudimentary tools, and all of a sudden fire. Oh, that's interesting. And all of a sudden, these monkeys tend to be very violent, so they fight each other all the time, right? And you kind of sit back and watch how these little monkeys kind of evolve and progress, and all of a sudden now. All of a sudden they realize that this thing called steam, if you convert water,
not you, it's
steam,
me, the anal probe edition. Yes,
you can create an engine, and that led to the industrial age, right? And that took how many millions of years of human evolution.
Why fools think both these people have anal beads in right now? What's going to happen? Like at the end of the interview, do they pull the ripcord,
break
right?
the molecules apart, right? In an exothermic reaction, you can get a magnitude.
Yeah, I don't understand anal beads
right?
myself.
Like
exit, not an entrance.
All of a sudden now you've got really a lot of energy, and then all of a sudden it takes a few more years after that, and we realize that if we actually go lower, smaller in scale, and break apart an atom.
He looks like Ultimate Warrior without the face paint. Oh, damn. God damn, Sector.
Lazy
God damn.
Watching humans evolve, realize
that was a bust, man.
Human beings are very quickly evolving to the point where
Greer would probably know which race of aliens is most interested in an anal probe. Yes.
Is no longer an issue for us, right? So now as a cosmic neighborhood, you've watched these monkeys kind of evolve and tear each other apart, and also
if she knows how to cook grits, she wouldn't be all that bad. Says
figure out a way to get off their own planet, right? And now they're not
stupid is almost painful. I know. I'm sorry. I you know what?
The gorilla in the zoo analogy.
I normally preview the videos. Like I'll watch it first and make notes, but I just don't want to waste any more time. So I thought we'll just. I listened to about the first 10 minutes, and I was like, oh.
But it goes to the zoo, and they might see the silverback.
So I apologize for how boring this is.
How cute and pruning.
Yes, she does look like Ultimate Warrior.
When all of a sudden
she looks like Ultimate Warrior without the face paint. Quick, somebody get a screenshot and face paint her like Ultimate Warrior.
And now all of a sudden that gorilla is picking up that key, and he doesn't quite yet understand.
I don't know how to cook grits,
works, but
I don't believe I've ever had grits in my life.
Between
I did.
The gate that's keeping them inside their enclosure. What happens when the day that the gorilla figures out how to get out of the cage?
Now we're talking about gorillas
getting out of cages. Because now
we've got Harambe on just riveting content from the fake Pentagon program director.
That could be very violent. And so, is it possible that they're monitoring us specifically just to find out, hey, how far along in evolution have the monkeys really come?
I think I've told you it's the new year about 50 times already in
Oh,
the
here's
new
the
year.
commercial.
It's January 2026.
Buy
And
my
on some level,
crap.
I think we all want to.
That's what it's about.
Humans
selling crap on the internet.
And a few of the great apes are one of the few creatures on this planet that actually have intent and motivation beyond just survival.
Okay, now we're going to get an evolution lesson from the fake pen. Come on, man. Theoretical. You ever notice that some of these people, they're like experts on everything? They'll talk about everything like they're an expert. Now he's going to tell us about human evolution.
We do bad things to each other sometimes simply because we want to. And
yes, I think we've clearly established he is a fraud.
Yes, makes us sometimes a very complicated species. Now, we're assuming that these things, wherever they're from and whatever they are, have the same motivations as we do. But the reality is, if we evolve long enough, maybe those attributes.
Somebody said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Lue Elizondo is great at speaking for 2 hours and yet basically saying nothing.
Beats that we have aren't really part of our
Get 'em
DNA
off.
anymore. Perhaps it's like talking to artificial intelligence. AI doesn't have intent. AI just, information in, information out. It is intelligent, but it's not a human intelligence, right? It lacks certain things.
I don't know what you mean by get him off. Do you mean get him off the screen or get him off? I'm not. You jerk him off. I'm not jerking off any fake Pentagon UFO program guy.
Values indiscriminately onto something that may very well not be.
Oh, by the way, I have to check something real quickly.
And so, we have to caution ourselves.
We've been having issues with. Oh, just give me one moment. All right, I just wanted to check the audio. For those unaware, we've been having audio issues, and I think it was just a switched setting that wasn't set right, and I thought I fixed it, and it seems to me that I did. And it could also be just my scatterbrain. I think that on the videos that we had audio issues on, I didn't turn. You have to turn down the video you're commenting on to make your mic louder than theirs. Otherwise, there'll be issues. But I think it's been resolved. But thank you for the people that let me know. And I'm sorry if I was rude. Sometimes I'm rude to people. I'm like, what are you, a fucking sound man at your local bar, expert audio guy? But then occasionally they're right. I just didn't have something set right. So, it's a one-man army show here. I do everything myself. So I apologize if there's technical issues. I always say it's a live show. You get it warts and all.
Temptation of ascribing the same type of human motivations that we have, that we relate to. Look, and it's hard to do because, look, I live here in the middle of Wyoming and I have 5 German Shepherds. And guess what?
Yeah, a lot of people enjoy Grit.
And guess what?
I wasn't a huge fan.
Right? No, how's my little baby doing? And are you hungry today? And come sleep in the bed with dad, and all that stuff. But the reality is they're not human. They are dogs. They are a completely fundamentally different species. Now, I am assuming that they have a lot of human traits because I'm human. And that is the only way I know how to deal with something as a human, right? But we have to avoid that temptation when we are, we're not talking about German Shepherds.
I don't know.
We're talking about
I'm not a big fan of grits. It tasted like weird rice that tasted like corn a little bit.
The same evolution if you will, trajectory that we had. It could
now
be
he's talking about dogs.
Something that has been
so far we've talked about wildebeest, gorillas, dogs. When is he going to talk about
like ants in a colony or bees in a colony, right? There's very specific functions that are performed by certain ants. Some are guard ants, some are queens, and some are drones.
All right.
And they perform a very specific task. So these are a lot of the things that were being considered at the time by a lot of the doctors and psychologists and whatnot that we worked with.
I want to back up for a second. I've heard people say interdimensional, and
I'm a big fan of bacon myself.
I get like, hey, maybe Atlantis.
You know what, Arlene? You know what I made tonight? We had some spare ham in the freezer. It was like sliced down from a huge ham. You know, when you get that huge ham, you can never eat it all. So my wife had this big bag of ham, and I put that shit in a frying pan, and I fried up this ham with a little bit of honey, a little bit of brown sugar, and a little bit of pork spice. And boy, did it come in. It came out like bacon. I fried it up real good. We like it a little crispy. It was a great dinner.
Real, and this species.
Now we're going to talk about interdimensional nonsense.
To the bottom of the ocean. These are all so silly, but we all saw Jim Cameron's movie The Abyss, and so really they're living down there, and we don't even know what's down there. And I can't remember the number. I think you guys actually mentioned it in the documentary of how little we've actually mapped our own ocean floor. We don't know what's down there. Okay, I could get on board with that one. They've come from space. They've warped space-time. Okay, I can get on board with that.
Well, there isn't DMs. You can email
inner
me.
Space?
TruthSeekerShow@gmail.com.
Mean? Is that like some sort of suggestion that they're coming from another
the chat is kicking
What does that
tonight.
mean?
Well, not necessarily. So let me give, if I can, to kind of
Now we're going to
down
hear
to
his
something that might be a little bit
interdimensional
more
theories.
easy to
Jesus Christ, this is
consume.
bad.
The reality.
30
so I
minutes
mentioned
in.
I live here in Wyoming.
30 minutes in, and all we've gotten is fucking terrible science lessons from an asshole.
And you can come out on any particular night and gaze upon the heavens and see just a beautiful, beautiful night sky, completely unoccluded. Now, if you were to take technology like, I don't know, a radio telescope.
It sounds that way.
That's
That's
the
great.
same part of
Yeah.
the sky that you were looking at with your naked eye, you would see a completely different reality. You would see large nebulas and Magellanic clouds and things that in plasma that the human
Rex
eye
Hall
just
says
simply
human
can't
grade
perceive. In
apes.
fact,
What
if
did
you
you
look
mean
at
by
the
that?
5 fundamental ways in which we perceive the universe, which there's only 5, right? And if you can't touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it, etc., we have no idea.
That's
there.
my email
But
address.
if you
Everybody
had,
can
for
email me
example, let's
there.
go back to the bumblebee, right? If you had bumblebee vision and you were to look at a flower, you would see a completely different reality because they
Guy Prop would
view
have to have a
the universe
six-pack before
ultraviolet,
banging Jillian
beyond our
Michaels.
ability to perceive, right? Or if you were
I
a
don't
snake
know.
and you could see thermal,
It's a hard
vision, you see heat,
calculation,
right?
right?
You perceive heat. The human eye it only picks
This
up.
is crap,
Think
yes.
about this: 0.0035%.
Yeah,
of
we'll
the
never hear
entire
from Burger
electromagnetic
Guy.
spectrum.
Let me
In
give an
fact,
update on that. For
most-
those unaware, somebody came in our live chat yelling and screaming and making the show all about them, derailing my show. They've got absolute 100% proof that Bob Lazar was telling the truth, and I better give him attention, and I better put him on my show so he could prove how wrong I am. And it turns out all he had was a fucking Google Maps picture of a road he claims in the Papoose area of Area 51. And so, I told him he could come on the show, but he better have more than that. He ghosted me. He just ghosted me. But thanks to our audience too.
So the universe we cannot perceive directly. It lies beyond our ability to directly perceive it. We need technology. And yet that is really where most of the universe lies, beyond our spectrums of visible light. They might lie in X-ray or gamma or radio or microwave or, all sorts of other areas. And so we are, we say interdimensional. It might not be something as exotic as another universe. It doesn't have to be. It can be part of this universe, but part of this universe that we simply can't perceive.
Again, all of this is speculative nonsense.
And we hear this all the time with things such as
32 minutes in, he's shown no evidence of anything he's talked about so far.
dark
And I mean, some of the science lesson stuff might be true, but come on.
and dark matter. Most of the universe.
Oh, now we're going to hear about dark
lies
matter.
in this invisible realm that even
Uh-oh,
today
here's
with today's
Lue.
technology, we know it's there, but we can't.
Yeah,
perceive
Lue
it.
Elizondo's
And
watching
where
with his
most of
lawyer.
the stuff, if you will, of our reality in the universe actually lies.
Suffer Truth Seekers Legal Fund.
And when I've listened to talks on string theory, aren't there like 11
I agree,
dimensions
Jack
or
Regan.
something
Thank
that
you
are
for
Yeah,
that. I
membrane. You're
appreciate it.
referring to M theory, membrane theory, and that's which is
Look,
part of string theory.
sue
Some
everybody in the
speculate up to
live chat.
22 dimensions. Some of them say they're very small and wrapped with each other. Of course, a lot of that, there's a lot of speculation involved in that.
Oh, is
But we
Jillian
do
Michaels
know
gay?
that,
I didn't know that.
If you were
I
to
didn't know
look
she
at,
was
for
gay.
example, going back to quantum
Well,
entanglement.
good for her.
That is
if
something
that makes her happy,
that we
good for her.
believe may be going in and out of
A
a
waste
different
of her.
reality. Same, in fact, with the
Once
electron.
was
You
a
know, when
waste
you
of a
and I went
good-looking
to
woman.
school,
She must
we
be the
learned
femme
that
one, though.
electrons orbit the nucleus of an atom, but the reality is they
Imagine
don't.
Lou drunk.
In
I don't
fact,
think
what
we have to
realize is
imagine.
The electron is more like the electron cloud.
Listen to
It
this
goes
shit.
everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. And some scientists have
Electron
speculated the electron is
clouds,
actually so small
black
that it's
holes,
actually able to zip in
wormholes.
and out of the very fabric of our
This-
universe. And
This is like, did you ever go to a party or something and there was a guy that was way too high and he just started talking to you about science shit? That's what this sounds like to me. Does it sound like that way to everybody else? You ever do that? You go to a party and there's some high guy there and he's like, the universe is so vast and we may be able to travel vast distances by shifting out of our dimension and into another dimension. This is what this sounds like to me. A guy who got too high on cannabis and started thinking deep science thoughts.
It's disappearing and reappearing trillions upon trillions of times per second. So
Lou says none of you will have the shirts on your back soon. You're gonna take everything.
Speculate on
it will have the last laugh.
Interdimensional realities exist because we can detect them to some degree already.
Oh my God. Okay. So, when I was watching the documentary "The Age of Disclosure,"
are you ripe for grape nuts?
There was talk about
grape
how
nuts is gross.
certain
You ever
people
have it?
high up in
It's
the
a
government
crunchy dirt.
wanted to shut this conversation down because of religion. And I'm not trying to demonize religion. Religion has been demonized enough. But
she must do the
when
pegging.
you famously Tucker
Yeah,
went
maybe
on
she
to
likes
Rogan and was
strap-ons,
like,
or
"I
maybe
think
they
the
just
demons-"
scissor and eat each other out. Who knows?
How much
Right?
of that
Who knows?
concern do you think has kept this silent?
I had a female friend at one of my jobs who was an open lesbian, and one time I was like, I don't know how we got on the subject, but I'm like, so what do you guys do? You just eat each other's pussies, or do you take turn? In hers, they took turns with strap-ons, so they would one would fuck one, and then they would, I guess they juggle the strap-on. Your turn, my turn.
That it will destroy religion as
whatever
well.
makes you happy, right?
Yeah, that's again great point. And
grape nuts are
there are
disgusting.
certainly individuals out there that are very threatened by the notion of humans not necessarily being exclusive.
I'm sorry, this is so boring. It is
I
bad.
understand
This
that.
is why it didn't get
A
any
lot of
views.
doctrine
This is nothing burger.
basically stipulates that human beings are the epitome of God.
Do you think you turned
I
her?
think at the end of the day, the notion of
I need a beer. Yeah, so do I.
Of these
Somebody
things
buy me a beer.
doesn't
It's in
really
the description.
challenge the notion of God. It might challenge mankind's notion of God,
right?
But I don't think it actually
We're in a pretty
challenges
bad
God itself.
situation.
There have been examples in the past.
I'm about to
For
drink
example,
Genesee Ice. Does anybody
Galileo
Does anybody know Genesee, like the company that makes Genesee cream ale beer? They also make something called Genesee Ice, which is actually not terrible for a brokey beer, but it's one of those $15 a 30-pack. Spooky is here saying praise the cash. I want to apologize to Spooky too. By the way, I was about to rip Lue Elizondo a new asshole, going like, "You're on the level of David Wilcock now, you fucking moron," because I mixed up Danica Patrick and this lady, Jillian Michaels, and Spooky already made the thumbnail that had David Wilcock on the thumbnail. I had to have Spooky corrected. So Spooky likes to make me work too hard. I just did it to Spooky, right? This is not the interview that we're doing the commentary over is pre-recorded, but I'm live right now. I don't understand how people don't understand what a live stream is, but okay.
when he first proposed his heliocentric model of our solar system. Up until that point, the church was very convinced that Earth was the center.
Yeah, Lue Elizondo's making fun of me for the thumbnail mix-up.
And Galileo, through his observations with his telescope, proposed alternatively and said, no, actually, we
Spooky's
orbit around
sharing
the sun.
Spooky is, an unexpected error occurred. What just happened? Oh no, what just happened? Hold on, just bear with me one moment. Let me read. Oh, now I gotta find the space we were at. Oh no. All right. Here we go. We'll get back to it. I don't know why, but there was an error with the video playback. The stream is under attack by Lue in the Pentagon. Yeah, Lue got me. Lue's in the live chat saying, "Yup, I got him." Steve's computer wanted it to shut up too. Yeah. All right. All right, here we go.
Offense, Lou, I can't believe they haven't killed you. So on one
hand, I can't believe they haven't killed Lue Elizondo. By the way, I skip juiced some of this shit. It's another 10 minutes of boring science talk from a fake grifter.
And you think, all right, Lue's allowed to tell us this much. But if you're telling me this much, you're kind of telling me everything.
Yes, David Wilcock is in the Epstein files,
right?
friends.
You're allowed to tell me, yeah, there's stuff in our freaking atmosphere that is not human, and the Pentagon has acknowledged it. We don't know what it is.
See, here we go with the conflation of things. There are things here that are not human, and the Pentagon has acknowledged it. Jillian Michaels, are you a moron? Are you fucking just full on retarded? Show me a statement in writing from the Pentagon acknowledging that aliens are here on Earth. People conflate the fact that the government admits UFOs are real. Sometimes there's things in the sky we can't identify. That's what they mean. They never said that aliens are here. But Jillian Michaels just said the Pentagon acknowledges that aliens are here. When? Did I miss it? You dumb bitch!
Okay, well now, haven't you kind of told me everything? What are we holding back on here?
Sure. Well, boy, that's a lot to unpack.
I know.
We'll break it down.
Such a long time.
No
You have
proof of that.
7
He's
years
just
of me wanting to
mentioned
corner
in
you
one
and
of the
ask
emails.
questions coming out right now.
Basically,
Well,
they
get a glass of wine to me, and I'll open up a lot more.
Okay.
I
live in Wyoming, so I will do that. I'll have you know.
Yeah. It's interesting when you talk about the multiple realities, right? There was this discussion a while back using the analogy of Schrodinger's cat, which kind of puts the cat potentially in a box. You don't know if it's dead or alive, or it's in this weird kind of middle space where anything's possible. And so if you're not familiar with
for much longer, have we heard enough of this shit? I think so. 45 minutes in. It's still a science lesson.
The Schrodinger's cat experiment. It's actually more of a thought exercise. I would encourage you to, and your audience maybe to look into it. It's very interesting. But as far as what the government wants me to say and doesn't want me to say, I will tell you, I've gotten into a lot of trouble. I've had a lot of things. I've had a lot of death threats. I've had at one time, I was warned several times that the elements within the government, not the government, whole government, because, governments, like religions, are made of people, and some are good and some are not so good. So I don't hold the government necessarily accountable, but there were elements in the government that were extremely upset with me and some of my colleagues, and did try to come after us. At first, they started with, what we call administrative terrorism, trying to get my security.
By the way, he hasn't proved any of these claims. None of them. If people were threatening your life, wouldn't you make a police report? He can't show us any police reports of people threatening his life. And the rest of the things he complained about, I believe his intelligence community inspector general report was basically just dismissed as not found. He complained that people within the government were fucking up his scam by correctly factually stating he never ran a Pentagon UFO program.
Security clearance in trouble, or trying to accuse me of XYZ, which they couldn't do. It wasn't true, and they knew it. And then they started kind of going a little bit more in the intimidation. One of my colleagues had some drones flown over his house, and then forced entry into his house. Obviously, a very clear message that.
Okay, so somebody broke into your friend's house. Do you have police reports of this? And just so people understand, the reason I'm so skeptical of all these UFO scammers and alien grifters constantly using this. Oh, I'm under attack. People have threatened my life. People broke into my house or my friend's house. They flew drones over. There's black helicopters flying over my house surveilling me. It's because all of these grifters use this. And I think it's like a plot point. Like, look, my information is real. It's so important that the government's trying to intimidate me and the men in black are trying to shut me up. But after hearing hundreds of people use this false talking point that they're under attack, I have yet to see anyone show a police report or any proof of these kind of claims. It's really ridiculous. Chad Wellington is here with one for the goal. Let's go. Let's get that goal tonight, friends. Thank you, Chad Wellington. Jillian Michaels looks like an older version of Joan Rivers somehow, and she's dead. That's spooky. Yeah. Suffered Jillian Michaels' face. Thank you, Chad Wellington.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Oh boy. Let's continue. I don't know how much more I could take of this science lesson from this jerk off.
That they wanted him to shut up.
Oh, now we're into my information's so real, the men in black are attacking me.
My approach has been very careful. I do not discuss anything that's classified, and I do not discuss anything that could compromise ongoing capabilities of our nation. And therein lies the third rail issue that you're talking about. If I were to just come out and say everything I knew, I'd be in a lot of trouble, and I'd probably, wind up being sued somewhere.
Okay.
And of course, that's always a possibility. Is why I have 5 German Shepherds and I'm heavily armed. Unfortunately, it's just a reality of life that I have to deal with.
I think he said they were gonna murder him, but she cut that out.
Being sued.
She cut out the word unalived. They were gonna unalive me because I'm telling the truth about aliens. Come on, you drama queen bullshitter.
Somewhere.
Okay.
And of course, that's always a possibility. Is why I have 5 German Shepherds and I'm heavily armed. Unfortunately, it's just a reality of life that I have to deal with. But with that said, I've made it very clear to the government that I'm not their enemy. I'm a patriot. I still will consult with the U.S. government when asked. I love my country. And what I want to do is actually be part of the solution, not the problem. The problem is we spent 80 years lying to the American people, and we've backed ourselves into a corner where now the government has lost a lot of credibility. So what I want to do is help the government have this conversation in a meaningful way. But at the same time, look, the reality is, and this is a hypothetical, so let me foot stomp this, but you can probably read between the lines.
Okay.
If hypothetically the U.S. government had succeeded in possibly reverse engineering and exploiting some of these crashes to maybe at some degree replicate some of the
speculation.
observations we're seeing in the performance, you wouldn't really want to advertise that. You wouldn't want your adversaries like Russia or China or North Korea or Iran to know that you've succeeded in doing that, right? Because that is, it would be considered a crown jewel. And so, and I can understand that. And certainly I wouldn't want that to happen.
Again, these speculative talking points are just kind of like accepted UFO belief and mythology. What if the government was successful in reverse engineering? And that's what we're seeing. Reverse engineered alien reproduction vehicle. Come on, bro.
So having a conversation like this, I think is okay. If I were to come out and start going into potentially opining about specifics and maybe what we have and what we don't have, that's a problem.
So basically he's saying he can't really talk about anything good. All he could do is like give everybody shitty high school science lessons and speculate about how many intelligent species there are in the universe and speculate about what if. So, in other words, the only thing that you can talk about is completely and totally worthless shit, Lue Elizondo, you loser.
That's a problem, because then what we're doing is we're broadcasting both our strengths, our capabilities,
pay him
and
anyway.
our vulnerabilities.
Can't give us any of the goods.
That's a no-no.
Pay him anyway.
That's no bueno in the world of national security. And so that is why you'll always see me
smash the subscribe button right now. Hit the
very
notification
specifically,
bell.
I can never talk about crash retrievals.
And hit the like button.
I still am obligated to go through the Pentagon whenever I write a book or
She's
something to that effect. They have to review every word of it, and they have the authority to redact things, and they did. In that first book you read, Imminent, you'll notice that there's redactions. And what I wanted to do is be completely transparent with the American public. So I left the redactions in, and you can see line by line where the government blacked it out and they don't want you to see it. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint.
This is a marathon, not a sprint. This guy's been promising that the government is going to disclose the truth about aliens since 2016. Well, it's 2026, bitch. You're up to 10 years of scamming. Like, how long is this fucking guy going to grift? How long is he going to run through the media landscape as a UFO expert when he gets everything wrong? We showed you 13 examples of things he got completely and totally wrong. How long before he has to get a fucking job? Can we get a time limit in the UFO community for grifting? Like, listen, if you keep promising disclosure, after 10 years, if you don't bring us disclosure, you're done with the UFO dollar scam. You got to go, you got to leave and get a real fucking job. 10 years is long enough for us to pay you for nothing.
We want disclosure, but we also are trying to avoid the idea of what we call catastrophic disclosure. We don't want to break the system that we're trying to fix, you know. And it's a bit, if you want a kind of another poor analogy, I often liken it to trying to fix your car, right? Trying to fix the water pump in your car because the engine's overheating. The problem is you can't afford to stop and you have to change the water pump while you're driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour, right? So it's not not
there are
easy.
people dumb enough to listen to this drivel.
And I'm very sympathetic to that. And that is why you will see me continuing always to support the government, our government. Because you know I am a patriot.
Book is $60.
I don't want
a signed copy of his new book.
We've kicked off 2026. And I'm all about bold action. Taking the
selling
idea
more
that you've
shit.
been nurturing and turning it into reality. What they don't tell the president. They don't tell.
Yeah, this is another stupid grifter talking point. Even the president doesn't. This is so secret. They don't even tell the president about this. The president is the classifying authority, Jillian Michaels, you moron. The president decides what is classified and what is not. The president is the ultimate classifying authority. They can't keep anything from the president. That would be highly illegal, considering he's in charge of what is classified and what is not.
Tell the DNI because these are temporary employees. Who is the legacy program? How deep in the government is this?
The wrong day to
and
stop
what happens if somebody retires from the legacy program? And how does somebody get reinitiated? 80 years. You got numerous generations over the course of 80 years.
Yeah,
you are recruited. Are you? But you're not part of the legacy program. You're part of ATIP. Like, how is your part in the government functioning separately from the legacy program of the government that's been doing this for 80 years?
Yeah, well, you know, Jillian, this is the rub I have. You know, there's a problem when you have
he owns a bar.
Elements within our government that are not answering to or not being held accountable by the authorities they are supposed to be administered under. For example, Congress, right? And the Gang of Six, or perhaps the oversight committees, like you said, Marco Rubio, right? He was chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, just like Harry Reid was.
Drinking Brokey beer,
former ATIP.
Because no one has bought me a beer for quite a while now. We have buy me a coffee, buy me a beer. I'm glad I didn't do this, but for a while, people were throwing a lot of money at the buy me a beer thing, and I jokingly said, like, I think one month it was like $300, and I jokingly said to my wife, like, I'll only buy beer from the buy me a beer money. But now we haven't gotten anybody to buy me a beer in a long time. I would be beerless if I had agreed to that, right?
Sponsor, the president, you know, the head of the executive branch, when they are not being
briefed, I'm going to drink a Brokey beer.
Then that's a problem. And I'll give you case in point. There was an article that just came out this morning, believe it or not, and I think it was on Daily Mail, where just some amateur was out by Area 51 hiking, and he pointed his camera up and he recorded a triangular craft. Now, it was not
recorded a Dorito-shaped aircraft,
not a B-2 bomber. It wasn't the Valkyrie. It was definitely a triangular-shaped craft. And
triangular-shaped craft does not mean it's aliens. There are tons of triangle-shaped drones and conventional aircraft, flying wing design. It goes back to 1948. That's not alien technology. That's human technology. And you, Lue Elizondo, are a moron for implying that something is triangle-shaped in the sky. It must be aliens.
The question is, well, if that technology is real, and certainly there's a video of it, it doesn't look like it was faked, and he heard certain call signs being used trying to, for operational security reasons to try to obscure what
my wife has so many snacks. You know,
the flight test. You know, you would
get a single mom, date a single mom if you're single. They got snacks. They all have snacks, right? Yeah. I have a hard time keeping on a diet because there's so many snacks around because of my boys.
I think that members of Congress have been briefed for the president. The reality is, I bet you if you go to any member of Congress right now and say, do you know what that is? They're going to say no.
Aliens invented
And that is a problem.
triangles. That's right.
That is a problem because that means someone then in the government is making a unilateral decision to go around the normal channels of government. And that to me is very dangerous, especially in a democracy. You know, my father was a participant in the Bay of Pigs invasion in Cuba. My family's Cuban. We are in exile from Cuba. We know what tyranny is about. Yeah. And my father told me a long time ago, actually, when I asked him right before he died, he passed away on Father's Day several years ago. We had a chance to take a road trip together. And I asked my father, and I almost flippantly said, "Hey, Dad, what do you think is the greatest threat to humanity?" And, you know, I thought he was going to say maybe some sort of pandemic or terrorism and whatnot. He looked at me and he said, "Son, it's corruption." When I said corruption, like financial corruption,
apparently his father was involved in the Bay of Pigs.
Moral corruption. He said all of it. He said corruption is the act of giving away one of your values,
which makes people believe that Lue has connections to the CIA. I don't know.
Exchange for something else, right? And once you do that, you start, especially in the government, you begin to erode and chip away at the very foundations of what freedom and democracy is. And at that point, it's a very slippery slope to total tyranny.
We're up to an hour.
And so this is why
he has said almost nothing for an hour now.
I am motivated to do what I do. I'm doing what I am doing because I actually love my government. I love my country. I am very patriotic.
Very low-level
and I'm willing to give everything to do that.
I know in the
Pentagon, I do not think it's right for some.
In the Pentagon, he worked on real estate projects. So in other words, if a department in the Pentagon needed more office space, he would go find them office space. That's what he actually did at the Pentagon, at least according to a very good source I have there. He had nothing to do with UFOs while he worked for the Pentagon. Nothing. None.
But in the government to make decisions on behalf of the American people, on behalf of the president, on behalf of the oversight committees, and not be held accountable. That's not freedom. That's not democracy, right?
Yeah,
that is something else. And that is something I've sworn from day one to defend against. Look, when I took this oath to defend my country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, when I left the government, I wasn't relieved of that oath. They didn't say, "Okay, Lou, guess what? You don't have to do that anymore." I'm still held to that, and so that is what motivates me to do what I do. And maybe it's one of the reasons, and I can only speculate, maybe why you haven't found me floating in the Potomac River with a pink tutu and wearing combat boots. I suspect that there's enough people out there that sympathize.
The government's going to kill him for talking about theoretical physics and stupid science facts that he learned on Reddit for hours on end on podcasts. Yeah, the government's going to kill him for that. Come on, Lue Elizondo, get a job, you slob. Like, the grift is retarded at this point. The fact that you're still not willing to admit that you lied to the New York Times, you lied to TTSA investors, you lied to people paying to see you at live events, you lied to people in your book, you lied in your documentaries, you lied in your television show. Like, he has no self-awareness, man. And just like all grifters, he is shameless. No matter how many times he gets caught grifting, he just keeps going.
With myself and some of my colleagues on how
the Energizer Bunny of scammers.
When you talk about corruption in my line of work, it's omnipresent when it comes to healthcare. Big food, big ag, big pharma, big insurance, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows that.
Absolutely.
I remember you were trying to get legislation passed. Oh, hold on. Let me back up before I jump to this because this will be confusing. I'm leaving parts out. Crash retrievals, should they exist, are arguably now in the hands of private industry.
There's no proof of that.
Like Boeing, Lockheed Martin.
There's claims of that by UFO scammers, but nobody's ever proven that they have any alien technology or any crash retrieved materials.
Military defense guys, military industrial complex. Why do they have it and our government doesn't have it?
Yeah. That's, again, a problem. There was actually an effort sometime.
They give it to private contractors to avoid FOIA requests and public information. If it goes to a private contractor, it's no longer FOIAble. all the communications are no longer foilable.
Time ago, I actually submitted it as a matter of record to Congress,
All the records
where Lockheed Martin had told some of my colleagues directly. This was the head of Jim Ryder and his big guys that said, "Look, we don't want this material anymore. We've reached the point where we don't know anymore what we can do with it,
Yeah, I think you're
and
right.
we don't want to be responsible for it." What happened back in the 50s and late 40s and so on, and there was material provided to some of these defense contractors to look at. And by the way, therein lies a big issue.
By the way, he's saying in the 1950s and 60s, there were materials that were given to these private contractors. Where's your proof of that, Lou? Where is your proof of that? Where is your... by the way, I want to put something on the record. For several weeks now, somebody has been trying to hack into my Apple account. And I know that because I keep getting account codes to access my Apple account, yet I didn't do that. And I just want to tell whoever's dumb enough to try to hack one of my accounts, I have an Apple account, but only because I think I needed one to reboot a friend's Macintosh to, put the OS back on their Mac, give it a clean boot with a fresh install. I don't have anything on my Apple account. So if you're trying to get to my Apple cloud to get something incriminating on me or whatever, good luck. There's nothing on there.
Talk about in a minute.
All right.
And they had it. And, let's not forget that Eisenhower warned us about the military.
So he's saying in the 50s and 60s, the private contractors were given alien crash retrieval material. And he said it as a statement of fact, but there's no facts. There's no evidence to support that that's a fact. It's just a story, a talking point. And basically, this is UFO mythology. There's tons of people running around the UFO community saying the same thing. Do you know how many of them have shown proof of a transfer of crashed retrieved materials or alien materials to private contractors? None. Not one.
Military industrial complex, right? Because they're motivated by money and profit. They have shareholders, right? They are a business. Make no mistake, right? They are, and their business is warfare.
Yeah.
So
come up with something
the
original.
military industrial
All it does
complex,
is
because they
repeat
had the
the
expertise,
UFO story.
were
They're
given
around
access
forever.
to material
They have no proof.
and to report back. But what happens in the government, like any other bureaucracy, people leave, people change jobs, people retire, and anybody who is part of that government that
Yes,
effort
sounds
is
like
long
yes to
gone.
me.
Meanwhile, these companies still have the material, and so Lockheed actually wanted to give
I
up
just
this
think
material
it's funny, 'cause apparently
back
somebody keeps
to
trying
the
to
United
access my
States
Apple
government
account, and they can't
to
because I
hold
have
on
to
to this. Said,
factor
look, at this point,
authorization
it's
on
kind of a
most-
liability. It's expensive to keep the lights on.
That's my
We've gone as far as we can with the research and analysis. So therein lies, part of the problem. We've incentivized
Ozempic on Ozempic? I don't know
warfare
about
as
that.
a
He looks too
profiteering
fat to be on Ozempic.
thing.
He'd be
And
thinner.
whenever you have money involved, just like the healthcare right system, you're going to have greed and you're going to have corruption. And so this is something that we really have to root out. This is why to me it's egregious that we don't take this more seriously. We now know, look, at perfect case in point, people say, oh well, this legacy program that existed, Lou, and ATIP, how can this legacy program last for so long and no one know? Well, nobody knew about ATIP. I mean, no one knew we were around doing what we were doing. We kept it secret pretty, for a long time, pretty well, until the New York Times blew the story. So it's really not that hard to keep secrets when you work in the intelligence community. There's a lot of things American people have no idea that we are involved with or have been involved with, and they never know we're involved with. Because in the intelligence community, we're pretty good at keeping secrets.
Yeah, we kept it.
It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wrong.
It's easy to keep a program that was just in your imagination secret, you fucking moron.
My issue is when there's reasons to have secrets, but I think secrets are very much like, a lot of people in the government think secrets are like fine wine, where the longer you keep them, the better they get. I don't think so. I think secrets, I've always said, are like vegetables in your refrigerator. And if you keep them too long, they're going to start to rot and stink, and you've got a big cleanup on your hands, right?
So
A big
what
mess.
we've gotten so far in the first hour, we're just about to cross the first hour threshold. besides Jillian Michaels' 2 ads selling stupid shit, is theoretical science lessons and trust me, bros.
On your hands, you're going to have to clean up.
Not a single piece of
secrets are only
evidence in an hour has he presented. Not a single piece of evidence.
there to protect really your sources and methods and give you the flexibility to continue doing what you do, which is protecting the American people. There's no reason why something should ever be kept secret simply because something is embarrassing or you did something wrong, some sort of malfeasance or worse, because there's something going on that we can't explain.
Great. Then why don't you release all of your personnel records from the Pentagon so we can show everybody that you never ran a Pentagon UFO program, you moron?
I reject that notion. I think it's an abuse of power. I think it's an abuse of authority.
Yeah, lose the big bad rebel going up against the evil cabal, shadow government.
For people to make decisions to classify things simply because they think the American people can't handle it. I don't subscribe to that. And maybe they can't. But that's not my decision to make. That's a you decision, not a me decision. Right. I think every American has the right to look. We have honest conversations all the time that North Korea has developed nuclear missiles. They're No-Dong and Topo-Dong 2 missiles, and that they have them pointed on the west coast of America. Right. Yeah. We trust our people to know that information, and it doesn't cause panic. It may cause a little concern once in a while, but it doesn't cause mass panic and chaos that our government once thought having the conversation about UFOs with the American people would precipitate. That reality never happened. Look, we're having this conversation right now, and people aren't making runs on the bank. They're paying their cell phone bills. They're still going to soccer practice and PTA meetings.
Yeah, why?
Right? And so this is why I always say I think America can handle the truth. And America deserves it.
No pictures.
You talked about an inability to FOIA, to do a Freedom of Information Act.
Ask him
about this in part
what time it is. He'll tell
because
you
private industry has the tech. You can't FOIA them. And there was something in the documentary about how this is where I was trying to go with this. You were trying to get legislation passed that private industry would have to hand all of the...
Listen, we've covered his documentary ad nauseum and all the crazy claims that the people in the documentary have made. That documentary is the worst, most deceptive documentary on any subject I've ever seen, not just UFOs. Because basically they just gathered together a bunch of wackadoos to say crazy shit, and make claims that are unverifiable. Like, well, they showed Jimmy Carter the alien files. No, they didn't. Or whatever. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. Don't sue me. Let's continue here. Oh, you know what? I think we've had enough. We're at 2 hours, 20 minutes. I only wanted to go 2 hours tonight. I checked in with the goal and we're way off. We need 17 more people to hit tonight's funding goal, but that's okay. We gave it a try and we got some gifted memberships, so we almost hit tonight's funding goal regardless. So we want to take a moment to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors, you YouTube channel members, you Patreon supporters. Did you know that if you can't afford the $5 for a channel membership, you could go on over to Patreon. The link's in the description of this video or podcast, and you could join our Patreon for $1. You get the same benefits, the same videos and extra goodies. But on the YouTube side, you get a YouTube channel member badge and some other goodies, YouTube goodies. So we thank you Patreon supporters, you YouTube channel members, you people gifting memberships, you people sending super chats, super stickers, super thanks. Did you know that? Even if you're watching a replay, you can hit the thanks button, throw a couple bucks in our hat, and I always reply to those and thank people who are sending super thanks in the comments. And again, I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. And not ignore what YouTuber friend of mine said is best practices. So I'm supposed to remind you to smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and not miss anything. You'll be able to come here when we're doing these live events and be a part of our live broadcasts and live chat. You are most welcome. And if you're listening in audio podcast land, we love and appreciate you. But go on over to YouTube, put Truth Seekers, one word, in the search bar. And I should be the first thing that pops up. Me, the strange guy with sunglasses. Go to that channel, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and come here and be a part of our live chat. We love you listening to the audio podcast, but just realize that if you're listening to the audio podcast, it is a replay. Why don't you come here while we're filming for the podcast and be a part of our live chats? Also, just a little bit of business. I got several emails from audio podcast listeners that I haven't updated in a week or more, and they are correct. I've just been busy, so I'm going to try to get it caught up tonight and tomorrow. Will I stay late if I hit the goal? Yeah, we'll play a bumper. We'll take a short break, and then I'll do another hour if we hit that goal. Spooky 9053. I have the all notifications bell turned on. It pings on my phone so I don't miss shows. Yeah, good. Yeah, I highly recommend it to the channels you really like. Do that. Turn that notification on. You get notices when new content is coming your way. I've seen things, I know things, but I can't tell you because if it's classified. Sam Corbin says, praise the cash. So I'll take a few comments from the live chat. I will check in. I don't know if Let's Mag is talking about dropping a sub bomb on Kick. Now I'm going to turn into Dark Side Phil because now I got to stall to see if Let's Mag is going to drop a bomb, right? Or not, right? RP says, I also have the notification bell for yours and several other channels and never get jack squat from YouTube about any of them anymore. It's like it stopped a year ago. Yeah, I hear that a lot. All I can tell you is turn it off and back on again. I hear that may work, right? Yeah, I know stuff. I just can't tell you. Exactly. Let's Maga says stall. If you're making me stall for no reason, I'm... all right. I'll have a smoke. I will take some comments and questions from the live chat. Also want to remind you that I'll be back tomorrow night. I'll be back all this week at 7 p.m. For those unaware, I had a little bit of a medical issue and I was unable to do 4 or 5 shows a week. I was only able to do a couple, but I'm feeling much better now and I'd like to get back to a more full-time schedule here and get this fucking YouTube hamster wheel going again. For those unaware, if you get off the YouTube hamster wheel, even for a couple of weeks, it slows down to a crawl. Are you going to do a show about Wilcock being in the Epstein files? Maybe we'll do a show about everybody in the Epstein files because there certainly is some funny shit. For those unaware, I am really not a fan of Microsoft, and I'm really not a fan of Bill Gates. So I was kind of happy to see him in there. Apparently, Bill Gates, he got some sexual disease from Russian hookers, and then he asked Jeffrey Epstein to get him some antibiotics so he could slip his wife some antibiotics so she wouldn't know that he got sexually transmitted diseases from Russian hookers. That's some juicy shit. Then fuck Bill Gates, right? YouTube limits how many notifications you can get per day. So unclick any that you really don't want to see all the time. Good advice for that, right? Put them all up against a wall. Bill Gates' wife commented on this. I'll send you a clip for the show. Yeah, I just saw that on Twitter and I meant to grab it, but I didn't. And by the way, Spooky, I found a new site for downloading videos from Twitter. And that's made my life so much easier. I didn't know there was a site for that. So I used to just capture it. And then, that's a pain in the ass. Sometimes the capture skips or whatever. Now I could just download them directly and use them. So good stuff. So comments or questions from me, put them in all capital letters. I'm taking some comments or questions before we end tonight's broadcast. And I'm still checking in for Let's Maga's big sub bomb to make me work harder. Still nothing. That was a bluff. It was a bluff. It was bullshit. Bill Gates is a crud. I'm not a fan of Microsoft, especially. Has anybody seen all the shit about Windows 11? Holy shit. Yeah, we only needed 600 more subscribers to finally hit 20,000. We've been stuck at 19 for like a year, right? I don't know what's going on. We used to get 100 or 200 subscribers a month. All of a sudden, we're down to like 35 new subscribers a month. Rex Hole says Bill Gates could have gotten medicine from his doctor. It's my theory that the STD email was about finding a hitman. Oh my God. Windows 11 is spyware. It's the textbook definition of spyware, right? Uninstall Notepad. Apparently, it's got a major security flaw. I'm on Windows 10, and I will remain on Windows 10 until I can't possibly run it anymore. And I want to thank all you kind and generous benefactors, because sitting right next to my main computer here is a beautiful 27-inch iMac, 4.2 gigahertz, 4-core machine with, I think, 32 gigs of RAM and a lot of storage. And that's running Linux. I haven't tested for a while. We tried to run the show just on Linux, but apparently some of the software we use, like StreamYard, didn't like that. But I haven't tried in a while, and I hear that it does work now. Windows 11 is a complete and total mess, and they're down something like 11%, or just they're down a tremendous amount. People are switching to Linux or Mac. And I got to say, I tried to switch to Mac 16 times, but I just can't stand Mac OS. I can't stand it, right? I can't stand it. Yeah, shut up, Spooky. Shut up, Spooky. We don't all get documentary film deals. By the way, I got you the fucking job you bought that computer with, so don't fuck with me, right? Ha ha. And Spooky has spammed our live chat with the latest Dark Alliance documentary, which I'm interviewed in. So now I guess that entitles Spooky to just spam the chat, selling the documentary. Is it ever getting on Amazon or what, right? Yeah, Sam Corbin says, I can't stand it either. Well, just when, look, I've never been a fan of Windows. I've always been a fan of, I started off being a fan of Unix-based operating systems, believe it or not, on my first run of computers, which my dad was a big fan of Radio Shack. So I grew up on what's called Tandy color computers. You can look it up. Not a TRS-80, that's different, even though they called them TRS-80 color computers for a time, but then they switched to calling them Tandy color computers. And anyway, this little 8-bit 1 or 2 megahertz processor machine, yes, I said megahertz, not gigahertz, with the initial versions, the first 2 versions had 64 kilobytes of RAM. But anyway, there was an operating system on that called OS 9. Not Mac OS 9, OS 9 from Microware. And that was a very Unix-like operating system. In fact, they basically copied Unix, but called it OS 9, and the commands were a little different, but it was very Unix-like. That was my first experience with a Unix-like operating system. Then I went to Amiga OS, which again is very similar in some respects to Unix, but like very, very simplified. And the multitasking on both OS 9 and Amiga were just tremendous. Like, I was horrified when I saw friends that had, like XTs and 286s that were so much faster, but they couldn't multitask at all. But in any case, I have always loved Unix and Unix-like operating systems. I would prefer to just run Linux on all my PCs. But unfortunately, Windows has a stronghold on commercial software developers, so they're going to develop for Windows, and you have to use Windows to use good software like image editors and animators and video editors and things like this. I had a black and yellow Tandy. Monopoly was the game I played on an old B drive floppy. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember floppy. I used to be a Linux guy too. Windows 7 brought me onto the dark side, and I've been on it ever since. I don't like any Windows, but Windows 7 and Windows XP were usable. They were decent. They weren't so fucking shitty. And it just seems like they get worse and worse as they go along. I still have, you can ask Spooky. Spooky was here. I have a bunch of workstations that are running older workstations, but still they're running either Windows XP or Windows 7. And believe it or not, even on a Windows XP machine, you can do everything you need to do, but you're going to have to use like the Opera browser. You can't use Chrome, so there's workarounds, right? And I don't know. I would prefer to just use Linux for everything. I'm trying to learn, what the hell is it called? KDN Live video editor. If I learn, and I'm getting pretty confident with it already, if I'm able to, look at this, Let's Mag has sent a 99-cent super sticker. That's not That's not getting us to our goal, but we'll thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support just the same. All right, and we'll give you a praise to cash, and we'll bounce on out of here.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Thanks for making me ramble for 10 minutes. Once upon a time, chat was the thing. Then it was MySpace. Then it was Facebook. Now it's streaming. Tech changes. Windows will be a thing of the past eventually. Yeah. Spooky says it's like a starship, like a ship bridge with multiple stations all running. Yeah. Yeah. Worth every penny. All 99 of them. That's right. It's like a ship bridge. Yeah. So in any case, I tried liking Mac because that's Unix based, but it's basically like super locked down Unix based operating system. You can't change things. I just didn't like it. I will never get used to Mac OS. Every time somebody gives me a Mac, I try again. Like, let's try it. Maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe it's not so. Yeah, it's so bad. I don't like it. I just don't like it. Let's MAGA 47 did become a YouTube channel member though, so that's $5. We thank them for that. And remember, if you become a YouTube channel member during a live broadcast, we give you a big shout out and thank you, like we're doing now. Big shout out and thank you to Let's MAGA 47, who just became a YouTube channel member and helped us to praise the cash. So thank you, Let's MAGA 47.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
And just so you're aware, if you become a YouTube channel member during when I'm not broadcasting live, I usually notice them and thank you on the very next live broadcast, right? I think Linux is starting to get a foothold with all their different distros. ARM might help the cause as well. Well, the one thing that Linux is really got holding it back right now is that the almost 90% of Windows games works on Linux now. I never thought in my life I would see that. And I go back as far with Linux, like the first Linux machine I built, you had to buy a certain video card and a certain sound card and a certain motherboard chipset and a certain kind of RAM because Linux didn't have very good driver support when it started. But now it's excellent. I have almost every computer I put Linux on just works. The sound works, the network card is recognized, the video card is recognized. It just works now. And 90% of games for Windows run on Linux now. The problem is multiplayer games with anti-cheat software do not work on Linux yet, but I hear they're working on that. I have a friend who's just a gamer. He doesn't give a shit about doing anything else on his computer except playing games. And he recently, well, within the past six months ago, he recently switched to Linux. I helped him install Linux. I recommend Linux Mint to most people. It just works, right? Pardon me. So I don't know what happened. My lights just went wonky. But in any case, he's been 6 months on Linux Mint, and he runs every game he wants to, but he doesn't play online games, right? So Linux is starting to get a foothold, especially, it's like the worse Windows gets, the more people jump in and try Linux. And for those that are like a little intimidated, you don't really need to know all those archaic commands on the command line. For most people, if you just browse and, check your email and watch YouTube videos and email your friends or do social media, Linux Mint will do all that for you, no problem. And you won't have spyware, adware, constant threats of, malware. I don't know. Who wins the Super Bowl? Well, the Eagles got eliminated, so my family doesn't care. But I hear from my wife, I know the Seahawks are in it. I don't know who the other team is. I don't really care who wins. But I do care that my wife is still going to have a Super Bowl party here, even though her team, the Eagles, didn't make it. She's a little bitter about that, but my wife has great Super Bowl parties with lots of food. She just makes tons of appetizers. So we're going to have, we're going to have onion rings, French fries, jalapeno poppers, and mozzarella sticks, and those little weenies, right, with the little roll around them, and a bunch of other stuff like that. I love that stuff. I just eat that for dinner. So we're going to be, the Patriots is the other team. Okay. Yeah, I'm not a sports guy, but my wife is a sports girl, I guess you could say, right? In my house, it's like the opposite of normal, right? And normally, the man is like watching sports and the woman is like, can't we just watch a movie? But in my house, I'm the one going, can't we just watch Netflix or a movie or something? I don't want to watch this shit. But my wife is a little extreme because not only does she watch the Eagles nonstop anytime they're playing, but also she watches hockey. So I have to watch the Flyers all the time too. And it just feels like it's just always there's always sports on my living room. I don't hang out in there much. I stay in my little hole in the office, right? Yeah, yummy. Yeah, pigs in a blanket. That's what it's called. Pigs in a blanket. Yes. And I'm sure there's some other stuff that I'm forgetting. But who doesn't love an appetizer party with beer and all the appetizers? Oh, chicken wings. There's going to be hot wings and boneless, and I don't know why, but she makes boneless hot wings and regular hot wings as well with the bone in. I prefer the bone in kind myself, but to each their own. So listen, I've been rambling here. We have done our due diligence. I will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. No place I would rather be, and I hope that you will be here with me. I'm going to remind you once again, it doesn't cost anything to hit that subscribe button. Totally free. Hit the notification bell. Come be a part of our live chats. You are most welcome. And if you haven't already, please comment in the comments of this video. Do you think it should be illegal for Lue Elizondo, who lied about his running a Pentagon UFO program, to be able to accept money from consumers while lying about that? Do you think that should be legal? Do you think that's at least immoral, unethical? Let me know what you think in the comments. And that's all I got for you, friends. So I'll be back tomorrow night. Hope you'll be here with me. That's all I got for you, friends. Good night, and God bless all of you.